Hello and good evening, everybody, and welcome to a Tabletop Misfits production of A World of Darkness story. I am Sam Lopez, the storyteller for Night of the Wyrm, A World of Darkness Chronicle, and we are joined to have you all here as we take on our first foray into the World of Darkness. Before we dive in, I just wanted to let you all know that World of Darkness stories are often wrought with perilous matters, some of which might be uncomfortable for persons engaging in them. However, despite the characters in this story being monsters themselves, the actors portraying them are not monstrous in nature, and we will be working with each other as well as with the considerations of you, our audience, to ensure that while it is a dark story, it is not a dark place for you to enjoy said story. I would love to have each of our creatures of the night introduce themselves, starting, if you will, with Victor.
Hello, everybody. My name is Victor. You can find me on social media as Victor the Story Weaver. And today I will be playing Basilius Borgia, vampire venture, with a very regal demeanor and somewhat violent gaze.
Thank you, Victor. And Sam.
Hi, I am Classic Sam NYGM. You can find me on all social media platforms as Classic Sam NYGM. And today I am playing Cassandra, a Malkavian vampire who is maybe the Cassandra from Troy.
Ooh. Find out more in the coming episodes. Jacob.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I'm playing Wonka tonight, that classic figure that we all know and love, and I am Bard's Tavern at all places that you can find me.
And now James.
I'm James. I'm playing Ben, and I am the local Garou pack leader of Portland.
Mm-hmm. Megan, if you will.
Hi. I am playing Neri tonight. She's a little nomadic, a little feral, but we'll see what happens.
And finally, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm playing Dr. Tamsin Newman, the Philodox Glasswalker Garou, and she is overworked and tired.
Now, on that exceptionally relatable note, we'll go ahead and get our introduction started so that we can all dive into the World of Darkness. And welcome back. We want to thank each and every one of you, not just the players assembled before me, for joining us for a wonderful evening in Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses. You might be familiar with stickers, monikers, or what have you stating that one should keep Portland weird, for it is a city of interesting characters. And said characters on this night, which is October 21st, 2025, are, joining the throngs of individuals getting ready for the Halloween season in the Pacific Northwest. Others spent the day putting up decorations, shopping for costumes, planning for a variety of parties they may be intending to go to, both during the week and on the upcoming weekend. But half of our player characters did no such thing. For you see, during the day, those player characters were underground, in bed, otherwise not capable of waking up, for you see, they're no longer alive. The other half of our player characters are individuals who do to the best of their ability and personal interest to stay in touch with mortal society, but unfortunately years of only being half mortal in nature have given them cause to either be directly ostracized or self-isolate from such matters. And although they may appreciate the occasional, Halloween-oriented song or sighting of a spirit Halloween, they don't necessarily feel as though dressing up fits the general vibe of a literal defender of the earth. Now, we've met our characters, but they're not all together as we bring a beginning to our story. As a matter of fact, only about half of them are enjoying a wonderful evening at the Portland Museum of Art. And very specifically, I will spotlight on our Kindred. Now, Cassandra, you've been in the city of Portland for some time already, and it's liable to be the case that you've also attended Elysium already under the prince holding praxis, a Toreador, Prince Thera Rosemary. But do you believe yourself to have attended an event such as this one, a high Elysium being held at the museum or the Museum of Art in the center of the downtown area of Portland?
Cassandra has attended at least one other because she is well known to know a lot of secrets and a lot of things that may or may not happen. So she's attended before. She doesn't necessarily like that she's attended these things, and she doesn't like stepping out of her domain. But yes, she has been there before.
Of course. And passing through the doors, you, of course, make the perfunctory journey through some of the lower tier exhibits, which are open late at night on evenings of Elysia, until you head upstairs, passing by a variety of art galleries and natural history exhibits that are occurring, which collaborate with some of the artistic displays on at present in the month of October 2025, until you arrive at a private gallery, one outside of which a very familiar figure by the name of Holden Caldwell is standing in a rather nice suit, something a little bit more casual, as October is still fairly warm in the city of Portland. Linen with cotton elements, but of a great sense of style, as is befitting any Toreador. And he nods as you approach, and he says, "Ah, yes, Miss Cassandra. We are indeed very delighted to have you here with us this evening. Do you have any retainers that are joining you, or are you just going to head in all by your lonesome?"
It's just me tonight. You should know I normally don't bring anyone with me. It's not something I tend to do. Why don't you? It's just me.
Ah, well, I didn't mean to imply anything. You just never know. On evenings such as this, it's not uncommon for wards to be brought, if you know potentially what I mean. But I don't mean to put any airs or any pressures upon you, please. And he grabs the handle to the door, and as he opens it up, it seems as though a great deal of money was put into this particular evening, for there are no galleries with skylights at the Museum of Art in Portland. But as some of you may know, October 20th and 21st were meteor shower event evenings. And it seems as though Thera and or some other members of the Primogen Court have had great interest in ensuring that during tonight's festivities, you might also be able to experience the meteorological event happening overhead. And sure enough, the room has low light, some of the more avant-garde pieces, including both paintings and statues, something to do with, and it's not Banksy, but it's another Pansy seems to be the upstart artist in the Portland area at the moment. It's a real interesting spelling of like P at symbol NZY. And they're definitely going for a Banksy vibe, but much more upscale gallery. That sort of art dots the entirety of this very large indoor upper story space with the obvious recently implanted skylight overhead, giving cause for a great deal of light just from the ambient lights from the city. And as you walk in, just like previous Elysia that you may or may not have attended, especially those under Thera, you do see throngs of kindred. Some faces you may know, others that are strangers to you, as Elysia is welcome to all, not just those who are currently in court. And if, anybody in particular may strike a fancy to sate your hunger this evening, you do see what appears to be numerous waiters moving about, individuals with empty glasses on trays, and something that is common to Elysia, at least for Toreador leaders, is you do see what appears to be IV needles coming from the wrist that is holding the tray, clamped off at the edge so that they can fill glasses as needed. Is there a certain sort of resonance that you're looking for this evening? Because it is very customary to drink upon entering so as to ensure that your hunger won't get in the way of a lovely evening.
So Cassandra's looking around in this weird detached type of observation, and you could tell like she's maybe like not visible to the humans around, but visible to slightly visible to older kindred around her, that she's controlling her composure because there's an obvious crowd, and most people don't know that she is a little uncomfortable with the crowds. And with that uncomfortability, a slight air of like a crackle of tensions around her, like
Mhm.
a little bit of tension. And she's going to look around for someone that she senses may remind her of the past.
Okay. Now, going to make this fairly simple for you, as I know you have greater powers of awareness. You're looking about, and again, there are pods of individuals to your left. There are small and large groups of individuals to your right. Just by way of a subtle inhalation, you do get the sense that the audience is largely kindred in nature. Very few ghouls, though there are some, seem to be attending to their VIPs, if you want to call them that, with that arrangement at an evening such as this one. And the majority of the mortals are those walking about that appear to be in service for the evening, those who are clearly aware of who they're serving. If they're walking about with IVs indicating that their blood is up for grabs. And as such, you focus your deep yet undoubtedly more subtle than I indicated for the purposes of the camera inhalation, and there is a bit of a short king, or somebody who would be a short king today, but when you consider average height discrepancies between thousands of years ago and the modern knights, probably an average height male with an olive complexion to boot. And that seems to be a good person to walk over and get a drink with, if you will.
She's going to slowly and deliberately walk over, and when she walks, it's controlled grace. It's not that overt like sexy walk. It's very controlled. But she locks eyes with this individual and never takes her eyes off of him. Um, she's not trying to control him, but she wants him to know that she's coming.
Oh, yeah. And sure enough, wonderful music playing, this individual looking about to see how they might be most helpful, they do eventually notice your gaze, and they attempt to meet you halfway. We shift briefly out of that moment in time, keeping it in our minds as we head outside to Basilius. Basilius, were you dropped off in, one of the town cars that you had rented for your visit to the city of Portland, or did you have another means by which you were showing up to visit another city's Elysium this evening?
Definitely, Basilius would have been dropped off by McCreary,
Mhm.
who he would have procured on behalf of Basilius, made sure to procure a uh, very decent, formal, potentially bulletproof, reinforced, subtle vehicle. Um, just a black
Mhm.
SUV, as he also made sure to feed on the way there
Oh,
with
yes.
his sponsored human, for he has very peculiar tastes, and he also does not like the idea of feeding in public. That is actually a privilege that someone would need to get. So he would make sure that he is taking care of, his thirst is quenched, and eventually he would emerge with his long olive coat, his cane with the raven skull head, his formal clothing, burgundy vest, rings, and take a moment to just observe the outside, leaning to the side of the window to McCreary. You know what to do. And knowing that
Yes,
McCreary knows that that means that they're going to park the car and keep an eye on the premises.
yes, sir. Understood. And he takes off with an air of somebody who absolutely knows what you wish of him. Heading inside, milling about as is needed and usually custom of Elysia taking place in public spaces, you do eventually make your way upstairs, and Mr. Caldwell is there, ready for you to enter as well. As a matter of fact, at your appearance, it doesn't take a sense of greater awareness to notice that Mr. Caldwell opens up the collar of his shirt, speaks ever so slightly into it, and then gives you that award-winning Toreador smile one can expect of someone of such a clan, and states, "Ah, yes, Prince Basilius. I do believe that no introduction to the greater room will be necessary, but just to be certain, should you wish for me to announce your presence here this evening?
He raises his hand. That will not be necessary. I prefer to make sure that I enjoy the room as much as I can before my presence is acknowledged.
That is entirely understandable. I might recommend that upon entering, if you will, that you make for the perimeter as opposed to walking straight in. And please enjoy tonight's shower. And he just vaguely gestures up with one hand while with the other reaches for the door, pulls it open for you, and you have command of the space. Walking in, there's a dramatically great mixture of blood on this evening, and recent political changes did give cause for the Bruja to depart alongside Gangrel as some of the lower houses of the sect Camarilla. And you may or may not, down south, have interacted with the Sombra or Banu Hakim before, but these are blood types you're familiar with. And sure enough, throughout the space, you're smelling just enough differences in the blood that you're not certain that there is a clan that's not represented this evening. Are you going to attempt to interact with anybody or sincerely just get a good sense of the space solo?
I think the Basilius approach is as soon as he enters, he takes to a side to make sure that he doesn't enter straight into the space. And his head begins by entering to the side, attempting to pretend he's distracting himself with the art, as he then slowly continues to walk, finds a spot in a corner in the perimeter, and takes in stock of the room. He is trying to get familiar with all these different bloodlines and clans and the behaviors. He's trying to figure out, especially if there are these many clans represented, which clans are actually close to one another. Like, are the clans segregated amongst themselves, or are they actually clans that are mixing and having conversations that may be of interest?
And you'll take a couple of moments to get a good sense of things. You, of course, are on facial familiarity, if not actual introductory, like graces with the Prince of Portland, Farrah Rosemary. But as you make this perimeter walk about the space, getting a good sense of the relationships at hand and who you may wish to speak to as a result of your initial observations, you do eventually make eye contact with Farah, and it seems as though, possibly from Holden out in the hallway, she already knows that it was your intent to move about without necessarily being provoked initially. And with a subtle nod, she turns back to the conversation that she's in and will give you a little bit more of that information you were curious about in just a moment. For you see, out on the streets, walking up outside the Art Museum of Portland, is a peculiar character. Wonka, I'll let you describe yourself.
Uh, as Wonka walks in, kind of seeing how most of the suits are probably, black and white. You obviously see him and his purple and checkered and everything, just as crazy as most of the candy that he desires is. With his small group of ghouls walking in, everybody would kind of get this weird sense, almost like that every ghoul has a different flavor to them.
Mm-hmm.
And he walks in as if this is actually a party of his, even though it's not. Um, kind of in the I'm a center of attention because look at me, I'm here, and I have the candy.
And sure enough, you do draw some eyes, you and your retainers, moving about the museum space until you head up the stairs as previously directed with your invitation, arriving outside the private gallery. And Mr. Caldwell says, based just on your appearance, my good sir, I do believe that you bear the visage of Mr. Wonka. And he stalls on the name Wonka ever so slightly with a curl to his lip that says nothing more than just, my suspicions may have been correct. And as you approach, he says, it's customary to bring 2 retainers to such an evening. Do you wish for all of your guests to enter?
Oh, yes, please. And he'll kind of tip his hat just a little bit.
And you see Holden, he sort of just does that like forehead acknowledge of a similar like, but of course, as the keeper of Elysium, it is my duty to see about accommodating such things. And he ducks inside for just a brief moment, and you see the edge of his hand on the edge of the door, indicating that he hasn't truly gone anywhere. He's just checking on some matters. And then he pulls back outside, takes a good look at everybody, and it's a very long look at each of the ghouls that you're traveling with. He's very clearly getting a sense of them that isn't just visual in nature. And after meeting eyes with all of the above and then returning his gaze to yourself, he states, there should be absolutely no problem hosting you and your compatriots on this eve. Please, welcome to Elysium. And you walk into the space, and with absolutely no offense intended towards Cassandra herself or the great prince Basilius, the one entrance so far that has given cause for all heads to turn at this Elysium is that of the candy maker. You roll in, and the music, probably something like a classy lo-fi mix, definitely attempting to seem cool, if you will, alongside the pansy display. It's still playing in the background. There's still some minor muttering, but all of the characters that I am in charge of, at the very least, do not all at once, but eventually over the course of 3 seconds, turn their gaze as you enter, Mr. Wonka. You are doing the opposite of what Basilius sought, simply by way of your general appearance. And you currently have everyone's attention.
As Wonka kind of notices everybody's gaze on him, he goes back to almost not even inciting anything of those, and just kind of looking around at everything that is there and taking in the sights, and kind of like as walking past all the other retainers, just kind of like having a little sniff of what are these ingredients that are before him.
Yeah. And this room has great potential. As a matter of fact, this room has more than average potential. There could be benefit to you speaking with damn near every being in this space. And the best time to start doing so is now. And as you go tottering into the room, you and I believe your ghouls would probably be sticking fairly close to you. It's obvious just from them having entered with you that they are yours after a fashion, and it would be uncouth for other kindred at Elysium to feed on what's yours. But they stay close just out of, practice, and moving into the room, not unlike Cassandra, who had moved over to the individual that she sought to potentially feed from, like Basilius, who is getting a good sense of the space. We will return to these matters briefly as we pull out of the art museum with its confusing high-end art but lo-fi classical mixture out onto the streets of Portland, wherein you can smell breweries on every corner, pizza that's somehow loaded with kimchi and burrito fixings at hipster restaurants on every other corner, and the unmistakable scent of pee in just about every area of the downtown gutter space. We then zoom all the way out to the beautiful and scenic Mount Hood. Far away from the city proper, but still within the greater Portland metropolitan area, is the majestic Trillium Lake, where the greater Garou nation of the major metropolitan Portland area is holding a moot this evening. The reason for which is numerous cairns, significant spiritual sites for the Garou, had been popping up over the last couple of years, ones that had previously, unfortunately, either been corrupted or otherwise died out, and those that had never existed prior to all of the humans going back indoors between 2020 and the vast majority of 2022. As a result, with there not being a significant degree of Garou living in Portland and only a few hundred others dotted throughout the major metropolitan area throughout, there is a moot, this evening on the edges of the lake, down at the base of Mount Hood, where significant pack leaders and figures of great repute within various tribes are getting together to discuss the importance of protecting these new spiritual sites. It's earthy. It is wet from rain that hasn't quite touched the city just yet, and although the sun is still setting out at this moment in the scene, the tree boughs above have given cause for total darkness below. total darkness that the Garou are easily able to see through, and at a point in the late summer, burgeoning fall, where you don't have to be worried about humans a couple hundred feet away at the very popular Trillium Lake stumbling upon your meeting. As we begin to contemplate the important discussions of these cairns, we enter the scene with two Garou absolutely pummeling the shit out of each other. For you see, most moots are spaces in which Garou, who don't always have a chance to see one another outside of such meetings, like to reopen previous debates, to settle old scores, and as you see, what appears to be an older but very strong woman in her glabro form. Glabro, of course, being the humanoid, beginning to look bestial form, but not full 11-foot Krynos werewolf, just going to town on a still inhamid yet very formidable young man of vague Hispanic features, and they're shouting at one another over what appears to be a simple matter of having tipped over a motorcycle at some point in the last couple of years. And standing somewhat on the outskirts of this fight, knowing full well that not in his pack necessarily, and definitely not in his tribe, is Ben. Ben, would you mind describing yourself and telling us what you think of this? And somebody that you had a direct hand in rescuing some months ago walks up next to you, and unfortunately, she's still in a state where she has lost the wolf. A leader of the Heart Wardens, at least within the city of Portland, Sarah Adams, rolls up, and despite being locked into her Hamid form, she's listening to your gurgling. And she says, I know, but you know just as well as anybody else, we can't discuss anything important until they get their aggression out. And she sort of gestures with a steaming mug she has in her hand until you follow with your lupine eyes. Probably about another 20 feet in the distance is what appears to be a leg wrestling contest that similarly has nothing to do with discussing important cairn matters. And then off the distance, just a bit beyond that, are clearly another couple of individuals beating the ever-living crap out of one another. The vast majority of people, though, are attempting to catch up, drinking a couple of beers. You see some individuals fighting over the notion of whether or not until matters begin getting discussed in earnest, if they can be playing the radio. Maybe we won't draw too much attention tonight. The woods are thick. Nobody will hear us. Conversations of this nature are known to you in part in your wolf form. Even some of the elements of what Sarah was trying to convey to you don't come all the way through, but you get the spirit of the matter, and you know in the back of your mind, yeah, a lot of who's present are pups, and pups need to get aggression out, but this is annoying. And coming with you, probably running alongside you in wolf form, or if attempting to be practical for the long journey, roughly 40 or so minutes driving east along the Columbia River to get to the point you are now, south into the forests surrounding Trillium Lake, would be Dr. Tamsin. Dr. Tamsin, what do you look like, and what do you make of the current situation?
Tamsin will run in wolf form to just outside the glade, turn back into homid form, which her preferred choice is homid form for now. Gets changed into clothes similar to this. She looks pretty much like me, with maybe a little bit more tired at the moment. It is quite late. She has come from a long work day, and she turns back into homid form, gets changed, puts her leather backpack on, and has the biggest Stanley Cup thermos of tea that she's just sipping out of as she comes up to the moot and goes, oh, hello, Sarah. Hello, Alpha. How's it going? I see you already have tea.
Hmm.
I bought mine.
And for the record, you see she pulls out what appears to be one of those like collapsible dog bowls that people carry when they're walking and running. And she like pops it, pours a little bit of what's in her mug and sets it on the ground in front of Ben. And she goes, "Can't speak for this guy, but things have been worse. I'm hearing the howls again, but still can't shift. Glad to be out here though. It's good to be around the rest of the nation. How you been?"
Oh, I've been good. A little tiring at work, but it's getting there. Making some new things for the pack, but mainly just helping out the big guy here. And I look down at Ben and I like give him a non cutesy like pat on the wolf back to show I'm there, but not treating him like a domesticated animal.
I'm assuming the leash didn't come with you on this visit. Yeah.
No, not to the not
To
here.
the moon. Yeah, that would be untoward for so many reasons. Sarah does kind of watch you pat his back and sort of like looks to you, Ben, indicating that it's getting cold in the direction of the tea, and she says, "There's nothing in there that'll hurt a dog, I promise." With a little bit of like a curl to her lip, calling you a dog. I see one
Sarah
of our
won't.
fellow wolves.
Sarah,
Sorry.
Sarah, I wouldn't. Not unless you want another fight to break out right now, and I don't feel the need to get involved.
No offense was meant, old man. My apologies. Just it's the only way in which I can kind of feel the rage at the moment. It's not the same. I hope to get that back at some point. And almost sort of embarrassed, you see she heads off because it looks as though a contingent of stargazers has shown up, and Sarah still holds a position of leadership within the city of Portland in such a fashion that she feels she could be most helpful by going off and greeting such individuals. What I have to imagine, though, is on the outskirts of the trees, undoubtedly just having arrived at the moot, is Neri. Neri, unless I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, but how does your character enter the scene, and what's their general visage?
Generally speaking, even when in any sort of woven form or Herhamid form, there is just kind of this feeling of that rage bubbling under the surface of you don't know what the upset is, you're not sure where things are going, but you know that you probably don't want to approach unless they approach you.
Mm-hmm.
And being that it is the very beginning, most likely would be at the very least in glabro form. Just trying to stay on the sidelines, but also be like, I kind of have to be here. I don't really want to. So I'm just going to stay over here and I'll see how I feel as things go about. But they seem like they're pretty well rested. No idea where they got the rest because they never really seem to sleep indoors, but they seem like they're a little bit more grounded than usual, but still very unapproachable.
Oh yeah. And to that degree of unapproachable, you do see what appears to be a younger but not young woman walk up to you, and she's in her Hamid form. She's got just a standard issue flannel rolled up to her elbows, some dirty jeans, hiking boots, just a very comfortable look. And you would recognize this as, among other Garou, a person who calls themselves Rages in Rain. But Rain is her given name, just a little bit spelled a little bit differently. And Rain, just for simplicity's sake, it rolls up to you, a fellow Silent Strider, and she says, "I'm not going to lie, I wasn't expecting any other Striders out from the city tonight. Anybody give you any trouble on the way out here?"
Not the way I came.
Of course. A lot of people ran in under the cover of, well, I guess burgeoning dark. It's not too dark out here yet. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty worried about Wesley. He had some anger that he didn't necessarily want to bring out to the moot, but he is a pack leader, even if he's not our pack leader. You didn't by chance see him on the way out, did you?
Unless they were they were coming from like super deep in the forest or even up the mountain, most likely Neri didn't see anybody coming along to where she was headed.
And in a reaction version to that, to Rain, she says, "No, that's fine. Yeah, he would have been coming out from sort of like the Mount or the Hood River Brewery area, not the same direction you came from. He's been out there for a couple of days trying to get something going. I don't know yet, but if you do see him, let me know. Also, it's not your job, so don't feel like you have to." And she sort of gives you a perfunctory like knuckles on the shoulder, and she starts walking away. And
She
around
does a
that,
little bit of a growl on the wall.
and there, there are some individuals who are winning over the argument of, yeah, let's get a little bit of music going, just for the purposes of we clearly don't seem to be ready to talk yet, as in the time that our characters have been speaking with one another and with myself and other characters, 2 more fights have broken out. An individual has lit up a camp stove because it seems prudent to get other warm food and drink going. Some thermoses are coming out, and although there are important matters to be discussed, because new Karens do need stewardship, they don't necessarily have septs ready to guide them and, give them life, if you will. That can wait. And we zoom back over to the city of Portland. Cassandra, you were interacting with this waiter. He has graciously poured a glass of his vitae, not his vitae, that's your blood, his blood. And he's speaking with you, at least at the moment, as if a conversation had carried on about how he's actually fairly certain that he might have Mediterranean family lineage. Yeah. He, of course, is named Daniel, which isn't.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's nothing spectacular. But yeah, Daniel's engaging with conversation with you, and he definitely seems nervous. Like perhaps this is one of Daniel's first events, if you will. But he states, I don't necessarily know which I guess group you belong to, but I've met nothing but kind people here this evening, and I just want to appreciate. I want to say that I appreciate your time and your interests, and everything he says. You can tell he is probably having just been picked for the first time this evening and doesn't necessarily know how to say "you're welcome" or "thank you" or what the proper nomenclature is to call vampires, etc. Mm-hmm.
Daniel, is that's your name, right?
Yes, and you, Cassandra, I believe.
Yes, Cassandra. It's
Ah,
seems very common these days. Tell me, you feel nervous. You feel like you want to know something. You're hanging around me after serving me, and thank you for that. But I don't need you here. Do you
well,
want to know
oh,
something?
oh no, no, I'm so sorry. We're given transfusions ahead of these events, just for the
Hmm.
purposes of making sure we can assist as many persons who need to patronize us, I
Yeah,
suppose.
you seem
Yes.
fearful. I feel fear.
I just I don't want to pass out early. I don't want to be embarrassed. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to make myself your problem. And please let me know if you need anything else. And he begins to walk away.
And she's going to just put her hand on his elbow. She's gonna like hold him, then turn him back around.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Was there something else?
Yes, I didn't ask you to leave yet. We're still talking. Uh, I want to know, what is it that you seem afraid of? It seems like you're here, but not here.
I'll have you roll charisma and persuasion to see if you can sort of fight through the nerves that he has at the moment.
Mm, hang on a second.
Sure. And for the audience watching at the moment, these are introductory scenes for the purposes of our story. I did not have our players roll either for hunger or for rage. So as you build your dice pools for now, everyone, please just include the singular hunger or rage die as needed.
Uh, I know.
Go,
Woo.
let's go, let's go.
No pressure.
Okay. She's got a lot of sixes going on here. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 6s, and 1 1 and 1 10.
Okay, that's 6 successes. That is way more than is necessary to convince a rather nervous man who is interested in speaking with you to open up a little bit. And he states, I I had a twin that did this before me, and I don't know where he is or what might have happened to him, but we have the same blood type, and I was offered a lot of money to come here and do this. And by the way, I'm very happy to be doing it. I'm nervous about what might have happened to my brother, and that's all. I assure you, I'm very happy to be here and very happy to be serving. I don't I'm hoping I can learn more about what might have happened to my brother.
Knowledge. You want knowledge. Oh, there's nothing to be afraid of. But you do know that true knowledge, real knowledge, is never free. It demands sacrifice, maybe a
Oh,
promise. Anyway, what's your brother's name?
well, he was Alan.
Hmm.
And you consider once again these like, oh wow, they smell like they could be Grecian, and they do have that Mediterranean complexion. And then you meet Daniel, whose brother is Alan. Yes.
um, she's going to lean in a little bit and kind of whisper at him, and it's like she's gonna. I want you to think carefully before you seek the things that you're seeking,
Are
because
you?
with sacrifice comes danger sometimes. Anyway, have a nice evening. And she's going to walk
Oh,
away.
okay. Let me know if you okay. And he turns and you see he walks over. There's very clearly like a cookies and water and orange juice kind of a situation, as if people were donating blood. And he beelines for a table because his nerves are giving cause for him to think I might need to top off. And when you turn around, you are face to face with about a foot and a half of distance away from Judith. Not unlike Cher or other individuals with a single name, Judith is the primogen of Clan Malkavian in the city of
Mm.
Portland. And at the very least, prior to the events of this story, you have a decent relationship because Judith is a very kind, welcoming, understanding primogen. She, of course, has her attendant with her because Judith does, I don't want to say suffer, but she does have a condition known as Cassandra's tears. You being named Cassandra, and potentially that Cassandra, that name could give cause for a little bit of ire, but it's certainly not a condition that she had named, and her attendant seems to be present with napkins at all times in case a vision gives cause for bloody tears that you may yourself have experienced in the past. Sure enough, at present, she is wearing a very simple silvery cocktail dress. She has sunglasses on that are resting on her eyelids as if they were also meant as a means of catching any potential blood that would fall if a premonition were to strike her. And she states, it's a little early in the evening to potentially be scaring our donors, Cassandra.
What's scaring him? He's just had a fear emanating off of him. It's kind of hard not to play with sometimes.
And she tilts her head ever so slightly and she says, I will admit that what I find most delicious is envy. Is the same true of you with fear?
All emotions have some type of pleasure, but fear is one of those that just warms the soul.
And as a real quick aside, Basilius, you're walking by in hearing distance of that statement. Do you make like a face at all into that statement, or do you walk by in a non reactionary fashion?
Basilius, he's been doing this for 200 years.
Hmm.
His poker face is very good.
Oh, yeah.
He's just taking mental notes of anything of interest that he either hears or sees for future investigation. There's a reason why one of his nicknames is the Bloody Ledger.
Oh, yeah. Well, as your face remains straight, you've been wandering the room for a couple of minutes and you've heard a few interesting tidbits of details. There are one or two bruja in attendance. Despite the clan having left the Camarilla proper, this is still open Elysia for kindred of all types to be visiting. And the two Bruja in attendance do appear to be speaking with a kindred by the name of Temina. From some of the information McCreary was able to draw up for you previously, it seems that Temina was, up until a few years ago, the sheriff under the Camarilla for the city of Portland, and she has ascended to the rank of Primogen for Clan Banu Hakim. As Bruja and Gangrel left behind the Camarilla, it seems as though both of the Sombra and Banu Hakim were welcomed in their stead. And she is speaking with these Bruja as a means of ensuring that their dominion under the new territory that was formerly Bruja's and is now Banu Hakim's is still theirs to inhabit. It seems as though this formidable woman, who appears to be roughly 30 years old, she has possibly Indian features to herself and an air about her that, despite her apparent age, she has been on this planet for probably more years than most in attendance. She's speaking very kindly to the nervous Bruja in attendance. And having passed another group, you hear Gregarin Rosu, who appears to be the primogen of Clan Tramir, speaking with a number of acolytes, very animately looking up at the night sky. For you see, as opposed to discussing kindred matters, this evening they are very focused with notes out, alongside what appears to be an individual who does not have the bearing of Clan Tramir, Judith. And Judith says, "Now, Cassandra, is there any point in you scaring away your own food?"
I didn't scare him. I just gave him a little nudge. That's all. It wasn't.
Okay.
It's a little fun. Having a little fun. I don't see what the problem is.
Well, and this evening's Alicia is for the purposes of general kinship and fun, so I can't fault you that, but we have to be careful with newcomers such as himself. Individuals like that might be a little bit too nervous to be, played with. And sure enough, you see across the way, Daniel's at the craft table, and he's double fisting cookies with his tray on the table. It's a little uncouth for an organized event such as this one, but he flashes a thumbs up at what's clearly a kindred attendant who walks by to check on him, and there's another, let's call them a donor, who walks by simply to drink some water and then walks eagerly towards just a high-class individual on the other side of the room. And Judith says, normally we vet them much more closely. I'm sure we're going to have to do something about him if he comes back for future events.
Well, as Cassandra's she's going to giggle a little bit. I mean, it is a little funny. Look at him. He's like a little squirrel. He's so, it's frightening. It feels lovely though.
Oh yes. Oh, it feels lovely. Is that something to do with the resonance you taste as you feed from him?
I mean, a little. I mean, it always feels lovely when you have a little bit of fear with your food.
And drawing on that, walking about the perimeter of the space was Basilius. Basilius, you have been hearing a lot of conversations this evening, some of which were undoubtedly more strange than "I like a little fear in my food." But before we elaborate on those discussions, do you throw any shade? Do you make a change in expression at all? Or are you just stone face, continuing to take in information on your passes about the space?
I think Vasilius is currently taking information. There's definitely some things that he's making connections with. The fact that the Primogen Tremere is speaking to Bruja about their territory, which is also the territory that Mary Johnson, which is the Primogen of the Clan Ventru, seems to be interested in running some business near the Columbia River. All of those things, he's just making the note of these things are connected. I could influence this, favor, facilitate this connection and this business, and therefore I get on a good position with a couple of clans and a new city. So he's just pocketing that for whenever he has the conversation with the Ventru Primogen of the city.
Of course. And a meeting with Marie Johnson is inevitable, as on previous visits to the city of Portland have always resulted in you receiving missives, her wishing to have attendance with you, whether in her territory or elsewhere. And a little point of order, as I'm sure you can imagine, walking through a room of kindred, being one yourself with greater senses, it's a lot of information coming in all at once. For anybody who might be curious, the Banu Hakim have recently taken out the previously held territory of the Bruja in the city, and the Ventru appear to have business out on the port side of former Bruja territory that they're now discussing in earnest as to whether or not there are means by which they can maintain such business without the Banu Hakim Primogen, former sheriff Temina, needing to become aware of such matters. And as you think through these matters and other conversations that you've heard traversing through the room, probably maintaining mostly eyes forward sort of a situation, so as to not be too much of a looky-loo in a city that's not your own, but looking around in such a fashion that it shouldn't be any surprise, you not having the query here or your greater senses being able to focus on one thing with so many sources of stimuli around that you bodily walk right into another male. As a matter of fact, this is a male that you've had, let's see, dealings with previously. It appears as at Elysia, his golem or troll, if you will, was not welcomed, but fellow Ventru, and you'll learn very quickly here, as he was announced upon his entry, despite you not having looked over to see who was being announced, Malcolm Gladberry is now standing before you, and sort of like, oh, I am so sorry. I had every intention of bumping into you on our last encounter, but not this evening. What brings you to the city this time, Prince?
Well, I suppose it is hard for me to stay away from the opportunity to admire some art while at the same time getting to become more acquainted with the city, the rules, the kindred here. But
Yes. Oh, please, I apologize. Go ahead.
oh no, if you were hoping to bump into me last time, I say why not take advantage of the situation now?
Well, as you know, there are rules with Elysia that would prevent me from fully expressing myself. Because I do believe I received a message sent from your general direction. A thin blood, one of those nasty sorts, seemed rather impassioned that I might have done something to them, with telltale signs of influence that had your name written all over them. Of course, I can't prove this by any means, but I had many ways of speaking to this individual before their unfortunate passing that led me to believe, especially with your departure soon after that encounter, that I might need to take words up with you about acknowledging territory in a city in which you might be a prince elsewhere, but are here just a visitor. Now, bear in mind the individual you're speaking with is not Primogen Marie Johnson, and you don't necessarily know if they hold power, but Clan of Kings be Clan of Kings, he is definitely attempting to intimidate you.
Most certainly try. Basilius has a moment where he's just listening to all of this, and there's a slight smile on his face as he leans on his cane, his head moving closer to Malcolm. Sorry, my kindred, are you somehow trying to insinuate that you have reason to place blame upon me for something?
What I'm insinuating is that following the traditions of the clan by which you hold great leadership, I believe I could give cause for a blood hunt. And we're actually going to pause as he states those words in particular, because you as a prince definitely know the significance of somebody even asserting threat of blood hunt against your person. But about a dozen paces away, speaking to what appears to be a throng of who haven't we touched? Let's keep this simple. You see what appears to be some unaffiliated, for they're no longer a part of the Camarilla, but still in attendance, unaffiliated kindred, including but not limited to mostly Gangrel. And held out before them, undoubtedly Wonka, is a hand with a few treats you might be attempting to proffer while discussing with them some of their interesting scents.
Um, Wonka is going to say that, as he kind of caught earshot of there was kind of like a treats table, and he will kind of sidestep over a little bit to keep the conversation going, but to kind of have his ghouls behind him, as you also hear him rattle off what they're allowed to have. With Augustus, you kind of hear, Augustus, dear boy, if there's not any meat or anything over there, please stick to the orange juice. I wouldn't want your blood to be screwed up or anything else anymore. Violet, stay with the fruit. Your blood's very sweet. Charlie, you can have the cookies, boy. And he picks each and every person of what they can have as.
They all nod very enthusiastically.
And as he turns back to really have the rest of the conversation with this, he also retrieves a little box out of his jacket that has chocolate-shaped candy bars of each of his 5 ghouls that says, if you would like, I can put you down for an order of 100 of these if you would like.
Now, are you proffering any that might be able to be tested, tasted?
Sure. And he pulls a little tab off the box and opens it. And each one is like wrapping that looks exactly like each ghoul that it represents. And he says, which would you like?
And I'll say that assembled at the moment are 3 gangrel, and they know they're coming to Elysia, so to the best of their ability, they've combed hair, they've put on the best and cleanest of clothes that they still bother to keep up with, but by all intents and purposes, they are a little bit dirty, and probably the easiest of pickings for people who weren't being spoken to by any other persons besides. And it took a brief moment to get the information out of her, but she was willing to eventually share that she is part of Clan Hecate, and now also speaking not with the outcasts, but with the unaffiliated in the corner. These 4 individuals all look over your wares, some looking like Pigpen of Peanuts, and another one just looking like a slender woman, attempting not to be too noticed, but also with an air of mystery about her because she too wears sunglasses indoors, like many Kindred do, and occasionally you see over the top of her glasses what appear to be very distinct viper eyes, hence the need for the sunglasses. And as a result of her sunglasses sort of turning the colors of the chocolates before her, she seems the most interested in the one that appears to depict, and she matches the scent looking over specifically at Mike and states, why do these chocolates smell like your retainers?
Oh, well, that's the big point of these chocolates. I am actually here to procure, other fair flavored ingredients, as he kind of like motions over to who we have already known from the night as Daniel and other people as they've walked and they're at different parts, and kind of delicately touching the subject of, but what if I could procure the flavors that they should actually taste like? Something that you would want to sink your teeth into and really enjoy.
And only one of the gangrel sort of like bares teeth at the notion of eating something, but all 3 of the other persons currently in your attendance seem intrigued, and as you have offered a couple for consumption, you see that sure enough, the Hecate reaches for the Mike chocolate. And both of the interested gangrel, interestingly enough, reach for the Veruca variety. And they all sort of like warily place them at the mouth, having scented them yet again, smelling that resonance of the humans over at the food table. And as they bite in, you get that very expected and hoped for look of curiosity and then shock, as the 3 of them readily devour their chocolates. And unfortunately, the 3rd gangrel, still just kind of looks down, up, and he mutters, with absolutely no disrespect, that can't be all blood. You really eat that? He's looking at the others.
Oh, yeah. as you see him reach into his jacket again and pulls out a large size Wonka bar, unravels a little bit and takes a little bust off the corner. All the time. I I I think that chocolate is kind of like the lifeblood that we all need with the real.
And he's in the process of like considering that while the Hecata goes, that's some dark chocolate. And that's a weird note for us
Aren't you
to
glad
circle.
that aren't you glad that you tried the Mike chocolate?
And she sort of nods vigorously, and as she's happily nodding and continuing to eat the chocolate, probably the first food semblance of food she's had in quite some time, we go back to Cassandra, who's still talking with Judith, and they're actually in the process of approaching sort of the center of the room as Judith is guiding Cassandra towards the prince, there, Rosemary. We look back towards the opposite enter, but still sort of in the centralized hub of the space as the perimeter walk took him into the vicinity of Malcolm. We have Basilius having just been dropped the notion of a potential blood hunt being threatened in his direction. And then, of course, there's a pretty decent sales pitch being made for blood chocolate. And that's right at about the time where the obviously having been constructed recently by the great deal of finances that only Kindred seem to be able to muster to alter the art museum to include a skylight in the private wing displaying the meteor shower above, that seemingly one of said meteors comes crashing through the window and a cavaclot of glass goes spilling throughout the gallery space. Or at least that's how it looks at first, because following quickly behind the glass, tumbling to the ground and rolling up onto its feet, claws immediately spreading through the neck, face, and head of Mr. Malcolm Gladberry, is one of 4 Garou, who have now entered the scene and, whilst roaring, are beginning to tear into the nearest of the kindred. Back out at Trillium Lake, however, it seems as though the fighting has begun the process of slowing down. Grudges have been handled in a variety of ways, including but not limited to thumb wars and near to the death battles, to the extent that tribal leaders, not unlike our Ben over here, would have to have stepped in to bring such matters to a close, wherein resolutions might not be satisfying to those who are participating, but will have to be good enough for the purposes of discussing the important matters of this evening. And to that end, Ben, you know, unfortunately, that for the purposes of conversation at such moots, unless you get clearance from everybody in attendance to shift into a more lupine form, you'll have no other choice but to go either Hamid or Glabro for conversational purposes.
After the initial conversation with Sarah and Dr. Tamsin, Ben will excuse himself for a moment, find one of his caches that he has dug around this area and for the better part, clean up as need be. Find a worn shirt, pair of slacks, pants, both probably ripped or torn up, dirty.
I would imagine Tamsin either travels with such things using her wolf bag, or at meetings such as this one, it's not uncommon for at least one duffel bag to show up with clothes. So it's easy enough to find clothing large enough to suit your needs.
Oh, no. So at places of like this, he would have already dug a cache similar to like a dog digging a hole and knowing where his bones are. He knows where all of the clothes are that he needs in areas of importance where he has to go Hamid.
And to be fair, there is a significant cairn on Mount Hood, probably more than one, although scouting hasn't been completed to see if some of the fallen ones that went away have come back. So it makes nothing but good sense that out here especially, you might have more than one bag. But fully dressed, I assume you proceed back into the moot space?
Yes. So once he's fully dressed, he will go back to the moot space and assemble himself next to in a much more human form, if Ben has one.
And in your Hamid form, you're standing there at about the time wherein Of all people, a Black Furies leader, some of those more, let's call them impassioned of the Garou, steps up to a mound that has been built up from the natural dirt in the vicinity. Certainly, there's no official meeting space, there's no established stage, but a mound just for visibility and ability to project their speech has been erected. And who you know as just plain, and I believe what I wrote down, yeah, he goes by Talon. Talon steps up onto the mound and begins spouting out there. All right, everybody. I'm going to open up discussions about how we got to be protecting these new Karens just as much as we got to make sure that the previously established ones are getting all the attention they need from septs, new and old alike. And as a result of that, I want to make the first motion tonight that we destroy Timberline Lodge. And you hear just the entire crowd begin grumbling. This is clearly a conversation that's come up at numerous moots or just plain meetings in the past. Timberline Lodge being the building at the top of Mount Hood, which does unfortunately serve as a base for individuals to ski, snowboard down the mountain, giving cause for there to be risk 4 months out of the year, every year, to the various cairns around Mount Hood. This is on topic at least. Ben, Neri, Tamsin, are any of you going to speak to the point that was just made?
So we're going to interrupt the cycle that we've dealt with for many years because what? Few humans get around every once in a while.
A few humans, it's a few hundred every year, and every single year some of those numbnuts leave beer cans all over the spirit grounds of said cairn. We have to destroy where they're hanging out, otherwise there's no means by which we can stop them from trotting all over our and Gaia's
And
business.
then what? We knock out this place, and then we're hunted. It's not the first time that we've been hunted around here.
That's why we light a fire. We don't have to go all wolfed out. I know our people especially, and you hear people groaning at him because, Black Furies. This is like, listen, if we start a fire in the kitchens while there's nobody around, we can knock some trees over. That's the wolf thing you might be thinking about. But if we can make sure the space and an argument continues about the means by which, let's take the fight to the mortals and save this mountain. Like the opposite of every ski movie you've ever seen, where it's like the billionaire trying to destroy the resort. It's like, no, the naturalists want to destroy the resort.
Yeah.
And eventually Sarah cruises over to you guys. She has 2 other heart wardens with her, and she says, okay, based on, just this last spring, I'm pretty sure this is going to take the next 10 minutes. I've got the next walk, the next century walk. Any chance the 3 of you want to come with? And she does see, Neri, that you were sort of just hanging in the vicinity and wants to include you since you were nearby the people she already knows, Tamsin and Ben.
Yes, please, Sarah. This could go on for a while.
Mm-hmm. All right. And she reaches into a nearby cooler and she grabs out, just a Coors Light, nothing too fancy. And the other 2 who are with her pop those off. And everybody starts walking. And she goes, big guy, I know you just changed. If you want to go wolf again, that could actually benefit us, but feel free to stay human if you don't want to go through the needs of changing out of your clothes again. But she and the others start walking, and it seems as though this perimeter watch is going to take them down by the lake, which makes sense. That's where people would be if they were in the vicinity.
What's my sin on time? Are we closing into what moon cycle?
At present, you'd think I would have had this information ready. It is actually tonight is the night of the new moon.
Okay.
And as a result of that, none of you in particular are of greater amounts of awareness or agitation tonight. Some of the ragabashes that are over back in the clearing were of the people who were fighting, just because the moon is speaking to them more clearly tonight. Luna is in their favor, but just a new moon.
Okay. Just Ben knows better than to be out on a full moon if he's already irritated.
Yeah. And thankfully, it's a new moon, opposite end of the cycle.
Excellent. I mean, depending on how long we'll be gone, it'd be worth stretching my legs, but it's only a short walk. I guess I can stay in this form.
And for everybody present, it's a beautiful night. You do see that the individuals are walking amid amongst your group, but over the next 2, possibly 3 minutes, you hear shouting get quieter and quieter. Never so quiet that you don't hear it at all from by the lake. But you get down by the edges of Trillium Lake, and you can tell that it's most likely going to be a fairly quiet and simple watch. Neri is probably a wolf that you've met before, but this seems like a good enough opportunity to get to know her a little bit.
I take like the thermos cup off of the top and pour some, and I'm like, Neri, would you like some tea? It's quite cold today.
May as well.
Yeah.
Best to keep our heads together tonight.
Yes. They keep talking about demolishing the lodge, and I keep telling them that it brings in too much tourism money. The council and the town hall are always going to rebuild it. It will keep being done forever. We might as well just add protections to the cairn instead of burning the building down.
There are always ways to find trespassers and shroud the cairns. We burn that place down, it takes the mountain down with it.
Exactly. And the spirits hate that. And then you've angered the spirits, and then I have to go and calm them down, and then, it's a whole thing. And I'll be busy.
And it's not the first time they've presented this opportunity or this requirement.
Ben, make a history check.
Sure.
I would like, really quick, as you make that statement in particular, I would like intelligence or wits and history.
Sure. Do I have history? I didn't see history on the map or on the thing.
It's not on the thing.
You're not looking at your 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons? Do me a favor then, and I'm actually gonna go way off. Give me, it wouldn't be academics. I want to favor your character. Do a survival roll for me as a wolf who's lived in these forests for many years. So you'll still.
So what you're telling me is you're trying to be nice.
Yes. Trying to be nice, and let's get either wits or intelligence, please.
Oh wow! So that brings us
information
up to,
we gotta know.
Was it 9? No,
Ooh.
7. Oh, that's correct. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. 4 is similarly actually just sufficient enough to know that you've been a part of the argument with Talon at least at one other moot. And as a result of that, you've either done the research necessary or you remember back in the past the actual scent of a fire. Either they or nature has attempted to burn down the Timberlight Lodge before, and the point that was made previously that they would just build it back up again and they wouldn't accomplish anything is right on the money. As a matter of fact, had you failed in that role, I would have had you make a rage check to see if you get more angry. But you're quelled as a result of your memory that reason will see through that burning down the lodge won't actually accomplish anything. And perhaps by the time you circumvent the entirety of the lake and make it back, the conversation will move on to something that will be A, more productive, and B, actually concern the cairns that are closer to the city of Portland.
How close are we to a current cairn right now?
You know yourselves to actually be walking the edges of a large and sacred cairn. There are water spirits easily visible to anybody who might be ambiently walking with greater than average sight at the moment. But even if you aren't using umbral sight or some other means of sensing them, because you are Garou, you can just tell that there is a greater water spirit accompanied by other lesser spirits of the water out in the very lake you walk alongside. This is one of the best protected cairns, which is why moots are regularly held here, and you are welcomed by the sept of the Silver Fang. The sept is made up of multiple Garou, of multiple tribes, but it's largely Silver Fang, as this is such an illustrious space and has been for centuries.
So as an old head, Ben would choose at that point, as approaching the cairn, to find a spot of modesty and change back into a much more natural form. And he'll go full lupus at this point.
And darting back out from the woods, you are now accompanied by your lupus friend, Ben. This is his natural state. And in your natural state, Ben, no roll necessary. You sniff the air, and fittingly for such a scene, it began to rain around the time that you had run off to change your clothes once again. Not in such a fashion that, you know, it would be inconvenient for wolves who don't want to get wet, even not so bad for anybody who may feel like they would have to cover grill tops or put away the ghetto blasters that are still on display, putting out some form of tunes as the meeting is still getting started in earnest, but enough so that scents of the earth are now being cast upwards alongside the dust being thrown by the water drops. And you're in the perimeter walk at the point where you would be able to scent from the southeast, very specifically of the lake. There appears to be non-spiritual, inhuman invaders, if you will. And you're feeling that they might be invaders because in your current form, you are smelling intent.
As I were.
Unfortunately, it would be very hard for you to communicate that to the others as a wolf.
Wrong, because as lupus form, I can speak to Garou and other wolves.
Fair. Okay.
But it'd be in a bits of growling and snarls, yips, those types of things. But for those, they would understand it.
That said, do you have a lassie moment?
You just kind of hit. Ben will kind of come right to the hip of Tamsin and just give Tamsin a pretty, I wouldn't say aggressive, but forceful nudge.
Oh. I look down and recognize that Ben is lassying. I'm like, I see. And I'll shift into Glabro, so the Michael J. Fox teen wolf form. When my teeth get a bit larger and I get a little hairier, my ears get a little bigger, and I'll activate my penumbral senses to sense if anything is disturbing the Umbra in this area.
And I will have you make a rage check, having shifted into a non-natural form. But you become ever so slightly taller. Your ears lengthen similarly ever so slightly. You're just off of looking human to the extent that outside of the month of October, people would be confused and possibly fearful of your appearance. But at present, you just look like an excitable Michael J. Fox fan, as you stated previously. However, you take a look out at the lake itself, and you definitely see what appears to be generalized disturbance. The spirits are focusing up. They are moving away from what is, to your knowledge, a deep, deep lake. And although the greater of the water spirits is one in which few people would attempt to fuck around and find out, the general sense is that the spiritual tenor is currently asynchronous. I'm using music terms incorrectly to communicate to you that it definitely does not meet the usual vibe check. And with Ben's sense coming alive, and I have no doubt in my mind that Neri is going to be on alert as individuals in her current pack, even if only for sentry duty, alongside Dr. Tamsin going full Glabro and seeing the spiritual shift by looking out at the lake itself. You all have a means by which you can easily see maybe 400 feet away, closer to when you were over by the edge of the woods near the moot when you had begun your sentry walk, what appears to be the dark forms of upwards of 40 individuals quickly but quietly moving out of the water. And from a distance, some look humanish, some look greater than humanish, and they are moving deftly in the direction of the moot.
I will howl, ow, as a warning howl to hopefully summon some others. And I look at Neri and I go, Neri, in a very calm tone, Neri, I feel it's time to maybe have that call to action and you'll get to hunt today.
You just hear this rumble come from Neri's throat as her eyes kind of flash wolven.
And are you shifting?
I've been Glabra this whole time.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Okay. So at full
I
speed,
very rarely go full human.
as Sarah pulls out what appears to be a very high caliber pistol, and with determination in her eyes, knowing that she cannot use gifts, she cannot shift at this time, she sprints forward, very much falling behind the other wolves, as everybody else in this group of 6, including her, runs fast alongside the beach. 400 feet is just a little bit longer than a football field, but that distance is nothing to a Garou, especially one who has shifted out of their Hamid form. You cover the distance very fast in such a fashion that you see, unfortunately, what appears to be immediately a few downed wolves on the ground being pummeled by leeches. And as a head comes sailing through the dark of night, actually in your direction, it appears to be waterlogged in such a fashion that it must surely have been severed from whoever it once rested upon their shoulders from. Unfortunately, Neri, you look over and you see the horrified face of Wesley, the missing silent strider that had been called out previously by Rages and Rain. And almost as if she knows precisely what it is you're looking at in this moment, you hear a bestial roar, not only of her, but definitely including her, of upwards of 17 additional Garou shifting into their Krynos forms in the woods. Hey, back at the museum, the glass has shattered down onto the museum space. You see 4 9 to 12 foot tall beasts, creatures that you know in the city of Portland there is a loose armistice with, wherein a respective territory is met with a respective territory. Near as you can tell, the Greater Kindred Society has done nothing recently that would upset Garou to the extent that they would infringe upon Elysium in the way that they are currently. And the 1 to 3 seconds upon which they initially smashed through the roof in near unison, they slew 5 Kindred immediately, including but not limited to Malcolm Gladberry, the individual who thought he was going to get a leg up on Prince Basilius. The next couple of moments are very jumbled, as admittedly some Kindred are really desiring leaving the gallery space altogether. But some of you may feel proud that in these moments, the Greater Kindred Society, of those at least in attendance at Elysium this evening, battened down the hatches and ready for a fight. As battles reign against the other 3 Garou, I will state that the 3 of you are located conveniently in a space wherein you would be amongst those that are facing off against one in particular, standing approximately 10.5 feet tall, with mostly gray fur, covered already in blood, having slain some of those fallen Kindred himself. And he towers over the 3 of you in this moment, and I will wonder, as 2 arms swing outward with the intent to make a tornado of themselves with their claws outward in your direction, but not acting on that urge just yet. Victor, you were potentially getting ready for a fight just a moment ago, and it seems as though that fight has arrived. In what fashion are you now pivoting your tactics towards a slavering Garou?
I will say for flavor, when these things crashed through the glass and landed, the one that landed very close to Malcolm, which was also close to Basilius, the moment that this thing went for a swipe, Basilius made sure to do a lookout, grabbing Malcolm and just basically moving Malcolm deliberately in the direction of the claw, so that Malcolm's head was basically just ripped off. And so it was like, oh no,
Oh no!
I try to say, oh no,
Oh,
Now,
oh my bad.
poor Malcolm.
just out of curiosity, what would your dice pool be if I were to ask you to roll manipulation and subterfuge? You don't need to roll, just tell me what the pool is.
That would be 7.
7, if you were to take half, and I believe the
Actually,
round...
7. This is actually my specialty of the long con, so that technically would be 8.
Okay, 4 is absolutely what you would have needed, and this is a good introduction to everybody, whether you're an audience member or one of our cast, that if you feel you have a sufficient dice pool, that if you were to take the half value, it would meet or beat a challenge, you can always opt into taking half. losing the ability to have a superior critical, but definitely avoiding the chance of having a spectacular failure. And as such, without rolling, at least for that moment before the werewolf faces off against you and your new compatriots, you definitely were able to pull off just going, oh no.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and the room would have been too chaotic for anybody to know the wiser. However, moving forward just a mere couple of seconds, you now face off heartily against the same Garou, who's probably stalking in your direction after having missed slaying you the first time around, with an unknown, at least to yourself, Malkavian, and other individual right beside you.
I think that the shift that happens is after successfully getting rid of Malcolm, there is a moment of holding the body in front of him, that whatever remains of the body, and as he slowly lowers the body and his eyes look up at this Garou, he activates his daunt to basically make himself more intimidating despite the lower stature and probably way slender physique, as he's just staring at this thing evenly, slowly just releasing in his hand the body of Malcolm, letting it drop. And he just adjusts, he just uh, slightly tosses his cane up, grabs it in the midsection, and he just holds it at the ready toward this thing.
We're going to homebrew ever so slightly. And the reason for that is I really want this to work for this still introductory sequence. And for that purpose, I would like you to roll composure with intimidation and add your overall dots for, and I believe it's presence or dominate. It's presence, right? For daunt?
Yes.
Presence. So presence.
No, dominate for Dante's presence. Yes.
So your pool comes from 3 categories for this roll then. It will be your composure, intimidation, and presence.
Oof.
And politely, while you put together that pool and roll it, Cassandra, Wonka, especially with retainers, there is now a terrifying tornado of meat and claws who very much so is going to take upon that whirlwind maneuver a la the Tasmanian devil, or at least that's the body language that's being committed at the moment. The important questions are, do you think you would contribute to the defense of the Kindred in the space, aka are you fighting? Or are you attempting to move away and just defend yourself or try to escape?
First, Cassandra, she is never invested into anyone around her but herself and those that she thinks are closest to her. And those around her in this party are not closest to her. So I think that for this, she's going to use rapid reflexes to find her way to the door, and have a nice day because her bookstore is calling. I think it's free. I have it for free.
Oh, it's for sure free. I'm just trying to decide if I'm going to give you Dungeon Master inspiration for the next time we play D&D together, or if there's another range by which I can do something along those lines because you're bringing into your character. Just know that I love what you did, I think. Sure enough,
I'm out. Like,
Let's go.
I'm going to homebrew something very similarly. If you're attempting to dodge away, normally that would be a dexterity and athletics. I'll ask the same of you, but in a similar fashion, you get to add your dot, aka an additional die, for celerity. And that just assures that as you run by, you don't accidentally get hit by an errant claw. And once again, as you build your pool of dexterity, athletics, and add an additional die for your celerity, we turn over to Wonka. Wonka, you have individuals you might need to defend, but you could similarly seek to run away. What's your plan?
So, as curiosity always gets the better of Wonka, and seeing that Basilia has basically had a hold of this other kindred that the head is now gone, he actually reaches in front of Basilia and just with a finger touches the neck, and then you hear him go, "This flavor just doesn't make sense. I don't think I can use it." As he kind of like turns around and goes, "Guys, you kind of need to move away. I guess I can help just a little bit." And Wonka is going to try and make eye contact with the wolf in front of them to use mental maze.
Ooh, what's my defense for that?
Ooh.
Let's go.
So for those watching, because both vampire and werewolf are very new TTRPGs for AP, can you explain what that is?
What mental maze is?
Yes, please.
Mental maze is an ability that basically, when a vampire locks eyes with their opponent, that you basically will have in a covered area. It's a lot easier in a room or something such as that to actually trap somebody in their own mind, of almost like a mind palace, like Sherlock Holmes.
If the werewolf wasn't in Krynos form, they might want that because that sounds rad. However, they are raging at the moment and they want to resist. What are your dice that you're going to roll, and what are my dice I need to roll for defense?
Let's see. It says charisma plus obfuscate versus wits and resolve.
Is this the same vampire that is facing me, by the way?
He
werewolf?
got up in your space to, for all intents and purposes, lick the neck hole of the vampire you're holding, if that's who you're thinking of.
Sorry, no, I meant if it's the same Garou, it's the same werewolf that
Yes,
Wonka is looking
yes.
at.
Yep.
Just in case it matters, I rolled 3 successes of the don't.
Okay.
Yes, me too.
So 3 for you, and since I'm off mic really quick, Wonka, why don't you go ahead and roll your dice? I'll go ahead and do my. I believe you stated wits and resolve. Good luck, me. And very quickly, Cassandra, you were attempting to run away because that bookstore does need tending.
Yes.
How was that roll?
So that roll was pretty interesting. So Cassandra got a 7, a 10, and a 2.
Okay. So 2 successes. I will state that you are gonna catch some claw, but I do believe your health is greater than 3.
Yes.
Which means regrettably at the moment, 3 dots of aggravated damage you take won't carry into terribly into your attempts to flee. So for narrative purposes, in this moment, you do take 3 points of aggravated damage as a claw strikes your side, but you do get away.
Okay.
Once the whirlwind commences, and we'll see how that goes here in just a moment. Yes.
For everybody watching, I rolled something that I missed on. So Sam, you'll have to say exactly what it is, but I would like to use a point of willpower to re-roll 3 of my non-blood dice.
You most certainly can. And for anybody who might be interested in doing so, another ability, actually, and I'll offer this to you as well, Sam, for Cassandra, if anybody wants to boost, if you will, you can, I don't remember the exact term for it, but you can stimulate your abilities when needed by making a rouse check, or there's a relevant check where you could potentially spend a rage and make a rage check at, it's one of those. But for werewolves, you can also boost your abilities when needed, just at a potential risk. Cassandra, if you wanted to have a little bit better of a chance of not taking a hit, you can quickly make a hunger check for me.
Yes.
And Basilius, for no reason whatsoever, if you're curious as to whether or not you can improve upon a 3, you can also boost your blood to have given you that additional die. And I believe I made it composure for yourself. You would have had that extra die. Feel free to do so.
It allowed me a extra success, which creates critical.
Hey, that matters. Okay. And Wonka, did you make a roll yet? I am going to roll my dice.
I rolled 2 crits, so I have for people listening, if you roll 2 crits, which would be a 10 on a D10, on vampire dice it looks a little different. It looks a little like this, where you have dots versus like this. I rolled 3 of those actually, but I can only use 2 if they're doubled up. And so I go from having 2 successes with that to 4 successes. I rolled 8 successes altogether.
Ooh, gosh.
Oof.
Now, I'm curious as to what Cassandra has to say, because what Wonka has just done actually affects your potentially getting hurt or not. The reason for that being Victor's successes, Basilius' successes are now sufficient to have briefly given pause to this frenzying beast. And In that moment of pause, they make direct eye contact with Wonka in the midst of beginning their spin with claws outward in front and to the side on the other, so that no matter the way that their claws connect while spinning, they will do maximum rending damage to whoever so they may come into contact with. However, I rolled only 4 successes on my check against Wonka. I'll go ahead and state that depending on whether or not you gained an additional success, Cassandra will significantly lower the amount of damage you may have taken. And Wonka, can you describe for me the scene in which this lupine finds himself stuck as he continues to stare into your eyes, stopping abruptly in the midst of attempting to spin and bending over ever so slightly, though you don't know for how long this will remain in effect?
As the Garou leans forward and basically hacks off this neck, I feel like it would make eye contact with Basilius and then kind of shift over to see Wonka's eyes as a little flash comes out and they see the paintings and things that are in the room almost seem like it creates like this weird maze around them that they will now have to try and figure out, how do I get out of this?
I think if I may add for flavor, and to for the audience, to daunt basically is the ability of a vampire to make their presence be scary versus alluring. While some vampires tend to focus into bringing you in, vampires with daunt actually make their presences just fearful. So I feel like the flavor of that change of eyesight is this thing sees Basilius, tries to attack, feels the ping of danger from him, and wanting to find something else to focus on makes the mistake of looking at Wonka. And then it's just the fear of Basilius blends in with Wonka's room that traps him in this labyrinth.
I want to add to that too. All the pictures and things that are in this room, the art, I assume are probably like flowers or really common ones. And as
it's pansy, don't forget, it's weird as hell, but there could be some flowers and stuff.
As that happens, you get that little sense of Basilius's like fear that he's struck and everything, and all the flowers and stuff just start to slowly run as it looks like blood's coming out of all of them.
A very much a bloody Escher painting is occurring in the mind's eye of this lupine at the moment, 100%. And Sam, just out of curiosity, did Cassandra gain an additional success or no?
She did.
There you go. Okay.
And her hunger die was also 8, so I rolled 2 8s.
That works. I'll go ahead and state then. No, that's nothing in a bad critical manner. You definitely now arrive at the door. 4 was all you needed, and I believe that's what you have at present. Mm-hmm. To arrive at the door unscathed, although I don't know, maybe like a dress strap or whatever outfit you had gets marred ever so slightly. But I know, I'm sorry, Neri, if you were there.
If you see the dress, you could take a look at the dress. Go look at the dress, because we're going to be unhappy about the dress. But anyway.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you make it. Yes. Yeah. You get to the door. And throughout the rest of the room, you're hearing yells, screams, battle cries. There are definitely more kindred present who would use similar abilities to those of Wonka and Basilius than there are necessarily of those who are outright attempting to pummel and fight against the Garou. But sure enough, especially in a public place, this is a serious enough encounter that you all know, wow, the stakes are high because guns are pulled. Other loud means of fighting begin to occur, and this will likely, at the very most minor level, result in the closure of the art museum for a little while. But numerous kindred are taken down. Thankfully, as a result of having subdued this Garou in particular, whilst Basilius and Wonka are continuing to keep it down and potentially laying in blows of one kind or another, additional Garou, including those Gangrel you were speaking with previously, shift into their own battle forms, embolden their blood to the point of being able to punch as if with jackhammers, and soon all 4 Garou go down. Shifting back out to the moot, besides Trillium Lake, we have 1 human and 5 greater shifted forms arriving at the scene and seeing all of this chaos, as some Garou unfortunately are taken unawares and are quickly being downed by what would appear to be frenzying leeches. More common, however, are numerous other Garou who are present, including you now, upwards of about 20-25 from the greater Portland metropolitan area, mostly going into Krynos, but some remaining in Glabro and Hispo, the more half-human and dire wolf aspects of werewolf kind. Bear no mistake, however, 9 to 12 foot tall wolves are abound, and they are beginning to tear into these vampires that wrought havoc in this space. Neri, at your feet, assuming that it hit your general area and tumbled to the ground before you, is once again fellow Silent Strider's head detached from body of Wesley. Do you have a die ready? Because I need you to roll a rage check for me.
That is a failure.
A failure in this instance could be to your benefit, for you see, when you're fighting, rage is absolutely necessary. He might not have been in your pack, but Wesley was of the tribe. He might have been a douchebag sometimes, but you don't take down a Garou like that, especially if you're a leech, is sort of the vibe that goes through your mind at the moment. And knowing full well that you see mostly brutish vampires attempting to hold their own and some doing reasonably well against the werewolves before you, are you acting as a pack, or will you isolate and go after individual vampires? Tamsin, I'll start with you.
Well, I'll just wait and see whatever the alpha does, and I'll follow suit.
Oh, aren't you very kind?
Well, Ben.
On the scent of blood, Ben would go full Hispo. He would not stay at his lupus form.
I'm going to do you a solid potentially, and
absolutely.
Give you a rage check.
Yeah, but I have to roll this with advantage because of my form.
Folks, that's either our third or fourth 5e reference tonight.
So for those watching, Ben's favorite form is Hispo, so shapeshifting is natural as breathing for him. So I choose one of my natural forms, and whenever shifting that form, I may reroll a single failed rage check. So that was critical success on rage.
Excellent. You are already mad. Wolves are all already mad. And thank you very much, Wonka, aka Jacob, for displaying the Hispo form a la that shift card, which, by the way, can be found in any Werewolf the Apocalypse dice set from Renegade Game Studios. But this is as natural to you as breathing air and drinking water. You are back in your prime. You have Tamsin at your side, ready to act. Neri, are you staying with these two who clearly intend to act as a unit, or are you splitting off and going full bore against these motherfuckers?
First thing I do before I let the rage fully enter my brain is see if I can hear anywhere nearby that there are others waiting to pull in.
Now, I am going to have you make a wits and awareness check. And I believe you have a specialty for determining ambushes.
I
so
do.
You get to add that additional die. And the reason for that, folks, not having done my job previously to assist in helping others learn the game, vampires and werewolves alike are able to take specialties in certain skills that they've chosen for their characters. And if a certain requirement of a role matches up with the specialty that you have, if you say have 3 dots for that skill, but your specialty would come into play, that gives you an additional dot for that moment, and the number of dots you have equates to the number of dice you can use. So Neri has 4 dots for awareness, and Wits has 2, so you're rolling 6 dice.
I'm going to spend a willpower.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have an actual specialty, or do you have a gift?
Specialty.
I have a specialty for ambushes.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, even with the willpower, that's only 2 successes.
We have this brief moment in time where a somehow growing taller, despite not shifting again, Glabro formed Neri is becoming that much more angry, watching the incessant nature of these stupid vampires burden a moot like this one. And for the briefest moment in time, you look to your left, to your right, you turn around to look at the lake again, just to make certain that if you're going to go all out, it's not with an enemy at your back, but unfortunately the rage. It needs to be sated.
I rapid shift full Krynos and just sprint full feral.
Now, normally at this moment, I would shift back to Tamsin and Ben, but I want to keep this energy up for just a moment. You see there appears to be a younger wolf in Hamid form on their back at the moment, and they're holding off what appear to be two of those wolf pretender vampires shift into their own macabre form of beasts, attempting to tear and rend at him as he's trapped on the ground. What do you do to him?
First thing, always go for what's keeping them up. Straight through the calf, break the bones.
Now, I would like you to make a strength and brawl check. Since you've gone full Krynos, I believe that gives you an additional 4 dice on top of your usual pool of strength and brawl. Now, as you put that pool together and as you roll, go ahead and do so at the moment. I shift now back to Tamsin and Ben. Tamsin, Ben, your temporary packmate has gone off to simultaneously defend a fallen wolf and wreak utter havoc on the invading vampires. There is chaos all around you. What are the two of you doing, acting as a team?
So what is our close perimeter? How far out have they went?
Now, from the edge of the lake to the point where the moot was being held is probably like only another 100 feet back into the woods. And the reason for that is they wanted to be close to the cairn as a means of keeping an eye on it and being able to send out sentry watch. You were able to close the distance to the moot in the same time it took for the vampires to get from the lake to the moot. But you're now very much so in that meeting space that was being used previously.
Okay. The last thing I will say is where is Sarah, a non-Garou in this position?
Turning about ever so slightly, looking back in the direction that you had been running, you see that Sarah has stopped probably a good 50 to 60 feet back, and she raises her heavy caliber pistol and she's lining up shots. You get the notion that she's usually more used to fighting in form, or perhaps that she's nervous, especially without feeling the wolf's rage, because you can tell even in your own Hispo form that turning back around and looking at the rest of the fight, there does not appear to be a clean shot that wouldn't result in a wolf potentially taking a bullet. But again, she's 50 to 60 feet back from your current position, and she's attempting from that distance to line up shots to start attacking at vampires herself.
Ben's not going to think very much at this point. He's going to go after the first thing that that he can smell blood with.
All right, and Tamsin, you're backing up.
Of course. If I see the alphas going for the front, then I'm going to circle around and try and jump on its back.
Okay. So you dart to the nearest enemy, and this appears to be one of the shiftier ones. They're the most alluring to you, especially Ben, because you do like to go after the fast critters. And for every 2 normal steps this one takes, it seems to skip forward in such a fashion that you've heard about some of those leeches that can like go super speed fast, like they're the Flash or something. It's weird. They're all weird. But again, this one's moving quick and that appeals to you. So you dart forward and you attempt to get your teeth on this one, or at least I assume it's your teeth as you are currently in Hispo. I will ask for you to make the appropriate check with strength and brawl as you lunge forward going for it. And Tamsin, you going on the flank, you can make a similar check and both of you may add an additional die as a result of your collaboration with one another. While they put together their pools, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ben.
You said strength and brawl?
Strength and brawl, and if you have a card handy or the sheet handy, let me know. I think in Hispo, you get a two dice bonus.
Yeah, it's 2.
Yep. All right. Well, the two of you build your pools and go ahead and make those rolls. We move back to Neri. Neri, you were going for the calves, potentially even the Achilles, whatever disabling measures you might. How was your dice roll?
With a pool of 11 dice, I got 6 normal successes and 2 crits.
Excellent. That is... Would you mind if I auteur directed you very briefly?
Sure.
Okay. That is a number of successes sufficient that you would fully behead one of these vampires, strictly speaking, because they are not seeking to dodge and they are not seeking to take the blow defensively. They are fully tearing into the Hamid werewolf on the ground, not being aware of their surroundings whatsoever, and your slash goes clean through the upper spine, the scapula, the collarbone, and the neck of one of the two vampires. And I'll go ahead and say that they were clobbering over the fallen wolf in such a fashion that you'd made this swipe as you were tearing fully through the leg of the other one. They were doing a head to foot situation, covering the wolf from both ends, I suppose. And so as you fully dismember one by way of cleaving their left leg, and you definitely got through the important tendons in the calf and around the knee, so congratulations there. That same swipe beheads and sends that head and upper shoulder region flying from the other of the two vampires. The one that's remaining, now missing most of the leg, turns in your direction, and you do see an utter blackness in its eyes, denoting its own form of frenzy as it screams in your direction, meeting the challenge that you've presented by slaying its companion. On that note, Ben, Tamsin, you've made your own dice checks. You are seeking to take down the weird fast one, who is aware that it's potentially being chased, and it has made a dodge roll. I'll go ahead and tell you both right now, for your attacks, we're looking to beat a 5 or better.
5 with a crit.
5, and that's the double to make a crit?
Mm-hmm.
5 total?
Mm-hmm.
5 is sufficient. Okay, so you've met the difficulty, and this is something I believe you have. If you were going for bite, under the meets it beats it understanding of things, you would have done cursory superficial damage. However, with the bite +1 that you have in your wolf form, or did you go full Krynos?
No, I'm still in Glabro, so my intention was to try and pin, whilst the alpha maybe does some more damage than I do.
There's enough going on that I forgot what form you were in. I apologize. That is precisely what happens as you, strictly speaking, meet the difficulty. This creature, who seems like they were just about to get a teeth around the vital portion of the neck from a giant 500-pound Hispo wolf, and instead it darts ever so slightly out of the way at the last critical moment, and you see a fist that appears to be coated in rock. Whatever this thing has done to itself, it has emboldened its ability to strike, goes tearing down in the direction of Ben's spine, and it's in that moment that you fully shove it into, I mean that literally, the nearest tree, as it sinks a full 3 inches inward, and is already in the process of pushing back against you, but you firmly have it stuck, at least for the moment.
Just so calmly, just holding it on the back, just... Now, dear, I don't know where you think you're going, but can you just stay here just a second for me? Thank you so much. As I just shove it into the tree.
And for the entirety of that interaction, you feel like it's as cool as hell as you intend it to be, despite that being your intention or not. It's slobbering and slobbering in your face as a result. You're not sure which kind of vampire this is, but it seems to be really leaning into its more bestial nature as it seeks to fight back against you, chomping and snashing its teeth in your face, though very unable at the moment to break away from your grip.
Still have my glasses on, just putting it down, just interesting. You are indeed disgusting. Good, you'll die soon.
We're gonna have to talk about where you got these glasses at some point, that they can stay on, and the arms. I know they can expand outward, usually with some degree of flexibility, but you gotta have a discussion about which reinforced glasses atelier that you got these from, if not from your own workshop. Yeah. But much like the scene we had over at the museum, unfortunately, this battle does result in the permanent fall of no fewer than 7 Garou, but versus 40 frenzying vampires, that's pretty impressive. It is no doubt a point of shame that any Garou fell altogether, because fucking vampires, really? However, the damage has been done on both sides. Over the next couple of days in the city of Portland, a silent war is waged, from vampires to werewolves, from Garou to Kindred. Some battles spill out onto the streets in such a fashion that reporters would undoubtedly be talking about supernatural beasts being real and among us, if not for the very nature of werewolves in their Krynos form, causing a certain sense of delirium that humans have no other choice but to fearfully explain away what it is they saw. So despite these battles being unfortunate in that they're actually happening and having collateral damage in such a sense that the general public is being looped into it out of the sheer necessity for these fights happening in the populous center where most of these creatures reside, the city of Portland, no true mortal attention is being wrought on the damage that these two nations of people bring against each other. Arriving then, however, on the night of October 23rd, 2025, one werewolf in particular notices odd spiritual energy around a pack of what would otherwise have just been those gongrel sons of bitches that they fight on a semi-regular basis outside of the neutral territory that was established around the city of Portland, coming to the conclusion that, wait, are they Fomori? And for those of you at home and those of you in the audience who aren't familiar, Fomori are spirit-inhabited mortals, usually mortals, because you see there are good spirits, there are chaotic but otherwise neutral spirits, and then there are the bad ones, or at least they're bad relative to the others. And those ones tend to have a habit of possessing mortal beings to enact their bad will on the world. And although 1% or less of other creatures beyond mortals can be susceptible to possession, it is rare. And after this revelation from said werewolf, it becomes clear to all other wolves who are willing to listen to their outcries that each of the vampires they face in the evenings do have that odd spiritual energy. And in a similar fashion, there's a cadre of Kindred within the city of Portland, both mixed from the witchy Hecate clan and the Tremere, the Blood Mages, that make a similar discovery about the nature of the odd, frenzied wolves that seem to be attacking them at all odd hours. This, of course, coming after unfortunate incidences of werewolves tearing open havens in the day and dragging vampires out into the sun, of numerous Garou shattering institutions that multiple vampires used each night as safe havens to conflagrate, to meet, to feed. And on October 24th, 2025, a meeting is had. For each of you, I'm going to have a reintroduction, and what I would like each of you to describe as we come into this next scene is the state of your clothes and any potential residing marks as you're healing from greater damages that do, for both werewolves and vampires, take a couple of days, but by no means imply superficial or greater damage, but just evidence of battle having been taken upon yourselves as you meet up in, let's see, the area. It's actually, funnily enough, I'm glad I wrote this down. You're meeting at a derelict building in the downtown area, once again, of Portland, that once housed a haunted Portland underground tour agency. It has been, unfortunately, a business that's been abandoned since quarantine that resulted from COVID-19. But as a result of its being abandoned, it was very easy for Kindred to purchase the space, making it an obvious, not as nice or upscale meeting environment for councils such as this one. So I'll begin as we did for the initial introductions at the top of the show with Victor.
I think that Basilius, being a man of presence and a man of public-facing focus, has done their best to keep their appearances as tidy and as neatly as possible. That being said, there are claw marks on the side of his neck that seem to be already healing, but just you can tell the indentation of how deep those were when they first were received. And you will, not that most of these people would know him, but he's actually using his cane as a cane, in a very discreet way. He tries his best to hide it, but he actually is needing to put some emphasis on that. And I think, again, he has his coat, shirt, his pants is very formal, his cane. McCreary has gone on a more alert state now with weaponry, distant scouting, keeping track of things, silver bullets, all the stuff to keep an eye on everything.
And I was even going to go so far as to say that McCreary, without losing battle capability, probably has one arm in a sling or an eye patch or some other bullshit.
Absolutely.
But sure enough, the two of you roll into this space, and as you walk in, you do see some of the other Garou present, characters that are under control by myself, sort of have like a stink face moment looking in McCreary's direction. And it has nothing to do with the fact that McCreary is mortal, and more so the notion that over the last couple of days, it's very obvious to Garou when low velocity rounds tipped in silver are present. That's a very specific powder load that is easy to scent because the low velocity rounds are what's needed to get that desired hollow point effect from said silver rounds. And we tip back to the door, and Cassandra, to your credit, you very well might have avoided fighting for the last couple of days, but in what way, shape, or form has your appearance changed prior to your arrival in this space?
Cassandra, directly after the ballroom fight, um, made her way back to her bookstore. Was very annoyed, as annoyed as she could be, that her multi-$1,000 gown was damaged. And over the days that this fighting has occurred between Garou and Kindred, she has fiercely safeguarded her bookstore um, for several reasons, but has been slightly fascinated um, and amused with the chaos. Uh, she feels as if there's something in this design of what's happening that she should have a part in it, if not just for her own amusement, but also leading up to her going to this warehouse. I feel like she would have had several visions happening of potential futures where she deemed it necessary that she needed to be there. Um, and her drive for control and all that other dramatic stuff makes her go.
Oh yeah, and it's no small matter that Judith would have asked you to be here as well. And you do certainly notice that she herself, as you enter, is not in attendance. And those visions were sometimes positive, but much more so over the last 2 days, they were frightfully negative. More so than just in the cure manner. And it makes all too much sense that you would find yourself in this space. For the last of the kindred, walking in, having been bidden to partake in this council between species, Wonka, and potentially the same retainers we saw previously.
Wonka kind of comes in, not looking very different than he did before, um, being that he is very resilient, very tough on the outside. Um, Clothes a little more updated than what they were. I would say probably look a little more candy-ish, trying to look good for this, and also probably growing a uh, ever-growing friendship with Basilius. Probably also has now had Charlie, Mike, Augustus, Veruca, Violet, all kind of uh, take under McCreary's wing of learning how to kind of be like that group of being able to shoot, bullets and silver and everything, as well as keep up everything else that Wonka needs them to do. Um, but the subtle thing that you do notice is uh, Wonka almost has like a permanent little pissed off muscle right above his eyebrow, where you can tell uh, because of all this stuff that is going on, he hasn't really gotten to work on any candy ideas in a while. Um, and the only other detail that you see as he's walking in is he's changing out a pair of white gloves to put on a new set, as um, the fingertips of the ones he took off are actually burned off due to any of the extra little Garou that they've come across that have actually died. he has basically ashes to ashes them into dust.
Damn. All right. And now that we've gotten to the end of the line of the vampires, for the remainder of this episode, I am curious to see how hungry you are upon arrival. If you could please make a hunger check to see if you are all sitting at 1 hunger or if you ascend to 2. That good for you, Cassandra. That's only 1 additional hunger, but I'll remember that in case it becomes dramatically necessary for the remainder of this episode.
It's a rouse check, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I got a success.
Cool. Just
Success.
1. Just 1. So only Cassandra, who you were very mad. As a matter of fact, you hear a sage-like voice in your mind, one that only comes to you every so often, and they state, "Try as hard as you will, Cassandra. Your visions were never sufficient for you to fully protect what you cared about most, however. Unless you take the blood, you will not have what you need to protect said interests. You need to feed."
Cassandra, in her head, is going to. I'm going to assume no one else hears this voice. And in her head, she's going to go with her nonchalant lack of emotion. Go, threats are so tedious. I don't. Especially when they lack such originality. I feel like you need to get better material. Anyway, base motivations are just frankly disappointing, and I don't listen to what you have to say to me. And she's going to.
Threats, motivations. All you are at the moment is describing the feelings you have about your own hunger. And respective of the fact that your hunger did ascend from 1 to 2, upon the word hunger, you feel that it's like you've gone a day without food. It's like you've done a full day of work, and all you need is that 1 bite to keep you from feeling the hunger pangs. But in that second in which you're not currently eating, you remain in control of yourself, but you cannot deny the hunger.
And she's going to. The people, the kindred around her, can see her fighting for control. Although she is trying to be detached and calculating and trying not to show it, that usual controlled Cassandra that you normally see, they could tell something is a little off.
And on nights like these, that's certainly no surprise. Speaking of nights like these, walking into this space, you do notice that it's not only Kindred, and as the numbers of Kindred present have swollen by 3, in a similar fashion, coming through the door shortly after you is Ben. Ben, in what ways has your appearance changed these last nights?
After a few days talking at the moot, talking with Dr. Tamsin, there has been a request of Ben to be more appropriate at moments like these. So Ben actually has a well-tailored shirt on, pair of nice slacks, shoes that are actually, dress, and the ever constant twitch of something so close around your neck that it irritates you.
Fully understood. And although we previously indicated Nettie as the next one to enter the scene, just for thematic purposes, assuming you walk in with Dr. Tamsin, I hope you'll allow me to have you go last, Neri, with Tamsin going next. Thank you.
So Tamsin will walk in with Ben with like a supportive hand like in between the shoulder blades on the back because she knows that he is not comfortable. If anything, Tamsin looks better than last time. She's got like the eyes of someone who's like been fully refreshed and is like diving into like this new problem that's emerged and is very excited to be here. She's wearing a dark green sort of velvet blazer with dark green dress trousers and polished brogues with a white fitted shirt underneath with a silver spider necklace. And with the glasses that are somehow still intact. With her usual leather backpack over her back and another thermos of tea. She's just always chugging it. And she walks in with Ben like one step behind the alpha.
And just a few feet behind them, walking in at roughly the same time, we now have, last but not least, Neri.
Neri is kind of... She's very much in that sense of, because things have happened, that hypervigilance sort of state. And there's kind of almost this wavering nature to the way her eyes flicker everywhere, but also kind of that ready to shift if she needs to. Just very much watching everything and everyone and ready to just snap at the drop.
And with each of you now having traveled into this space, I would like a rage check to see how the rest of the scene goes, whether you're more mindful or if you have no choice but to succumb to some angers.
Oh, look at that. Ken actually knows how to be a gentleman on occasion.
I don't.
Success for Tamsin.
I don't.
All right, Natty. Moving into the space last, and considering the notion that you have sort of that twitchy, anxious nature in your appearance, if not in your mind, you can't help but associate that exact sort of sense of anxiety, not a potential loss of life, but simply the potential to be attacked yet again. It seems as though a council has been called together to bring an end to the chaos, but what if this is just another goddamn ambush? And you're getting mad just at the simple notion that so many Garou are about to succumb to an obvious trap when you feel what appears to be a distinct set of talons land upon your shoulder. And looking to the side only with your peripheral vision so as to keep your eyes forward, you confirm what you suspected in that moment, that there's actually nothing there. Instead, you feel just the generalized weight of the owl spirit itself landing for just a brief moment, and it communicates to you, hang on to this anger, Nerdy. Let it allow for you to remain critical in this conversation, and then direct it in the manner needed if your suspicions seem to be true. But do not allow it to prevent you from learning what you can prior to taking action. This is my decree. And you feel a little bit of wind that if anybody's watching you, you can actually see a little bit of shifting in the hair, mussing of the clothes as wings flap only in your mind, and that definitive feeling of claws on your shoulder depart in an upward motion. You are more angry.
Too much slaughter.
Say it again.
Neri has seen way too much slaughter in her life.
Yeah, who hasn't? Am I right? But everyone assembles. There too is another semi-familiar Garou. She's middle height, but a little bit taller, sort of has like a truck driver vibe about her. There's a semi-familiar Kindred in the corner who has like rocker girl vibes, and it's possible that some of you recognize her from being on tour. There's that eccentric additional Kindred standing near her who you think he's a reporter, or at least that's the job he seems to hold down by day, but not unlike the visage of Neri walking in, he sort of has like a little bit of, a bit of a tick about him that he can't seem to act on, at least in this heightened environment, every couple of seconds, although anybody who's met Flynn before would be under the impression that he usually has that under greater handle. There are numerous, to be polite, lower tier vampires entering the space, not unlike yourselves. Victor, Basilius would only be considered lower tier for the purposes of this conversation for having been a visiting prince and not part of the direct line of leadership here in the city of Portland. But alongside everybody else, it has been made clear that you are staying at least for the duration of the conflict, and as such, you are a potential tool to be utilized by the combined forces of Garou and Kindred, seeking to bring an end to seemingly senseless conflict. For as the remaining members of this group come into the haunted tours of the Portland Underground space, assembly begins, largely headed up by Hemlock, a reasonably well-known Ghost Council tribe member of the Garou Nation, as well as Prince Thera Rosemary herself. Prince Thera Rosemary is no fool. She has not come into this space with instead of a proxy without protection. In addition to some additional handlers at your level of the totem pole, she is backed by her former sheriff and the present sheriff, Tamina of the House Banu Hakim, being the former, and her name is Josie, and she only seems to go by Josie of Clan Bruja, formerly of the Camarilla, but still present in the form of sheriff, standing behind her at either shoulder. And moving forward to address the assembled masses at first is Hemlock of the Ghost Council, and she states, "My brothers and sisters, and those of you who have graced us with your presence as well, it is all too clear that the hostilities between our two nations are not the doing of either nation." And you see Josie steps away from the room for just a brief moment as Hemlock continues to explain that based on that tribe, and the tribe the Ghost Council is very spiritually attuned, it is very clear without mistake that the vast majority of, if not all, of the vampires who have been included in these attacks that initially happened at the onset of fighting and not when other vampires and Garous stepped in were what your kindred would refer to as being whites. Whites being the kindred who have gone full frenzy. They've lost touch with all humanity and they now exist on the fringes of society. No more beast than the other werewolves in this room would be had they gone full frenzy. These individuals are susceptible more than anybody else to the trappings of the spirit world, which explains how they have been indoctrinated into whatever battle has possessed them to take part in this conflict that is not of the machinations of the greater kindred society, according to the prince here. And Thera would step up and say, "With the consent of our Garou counterparts," and she has a deferential tone when she says Garou, knowing full well that Kindred, speaking about werewolves and not in mixed company, usually use the politest term of lupine and much less polite terms outside. Well, she says our Garou counterparts gave us heed to inspect some of the Garou that they had captured exhibiting similar signs, and with the attendance and assistance of, and she indicates some of the other kindred in the space, including some of the more studious individuals. Tamsin, these would be your contemporaries in the space, but not Dr. Jackson from the university, who you're most familiar with. He would have told you had he been present or intending to be present in this meeting. But instead, it is none other than the high-ranking primogen Gregarin Rosu of Clan Tremere. She states that with his assistance and the leave of the Garou themselves, we were able to study some of the captured werewolves, and they and our scientific and magically inclined individuals alike have concluded that although it is uncommon, the werewolves encountered a state of, and she turns to Hemlock, and Hemlock says, greater Hauglusk. And those of you who are werewolves will understand that all members of the Garou Nation are subject to two heightened emotional states, one being Harano, which for all intents and purposes is a spiritually driven and bone deep version of depression at the notion that the apocalypse is here and that your cause is lost. And Hauglusk being not its direct opposite, but its more dangerous counterpart, at least for those around you. For Harano will usually result in a werewolf being considered weak, no longer fit for leadership, and any direct danger that could result from that would be to the specific Garou in question. Hauglusk is commonly viewed improperly as additional confidence, someone who wants to get things done. For Hauglusk is embittered rage. Not in that respect, it's the opposite of Harano, because wolves driven to Hauglusk are more likely to frenzy, possibly permanently. And the unifying factor identified by Hemlock and Prince Thera Rosemary by way of her experts on the side seems to communicate that werewolves and vampires who have lost a sense of themselves and their humanity were subjected to spiritual possession unlike that which is generally seen outside of the mortal population. And although there are still vampires and werewolves in the city and without that are taking arms up against each other, those in this room, at the very least, have assembled to acknowledge that this fighting did not begin as a result of intentions from either respective nation. It seems as though they're building to a call to arms to see if they can have your agreement to join in discovering the true source of why these spirits are inhabiting the bodies of your fellow kindred, your fellow Garou. But Ben, you didn't listen to the vast majority of that conversation. The explanation that was being provided is lost on your ears, not for lack of trying. You're dressed well this evening. You've cleaned up any wounds that would otherwise have been visible. You didn't even get overly angry upon waking in the midst of this ongoing battle between the two species. Instead, immediately taking in the visage of Gregarin Rosu in this close confines, you can't help but think of her. It was about 20 years ago now, 22. It's very difficult to keep track when during some of those years you spent the entirety of your existence in lupine form, and tracking time is a little bit more difficult when there isn't a calendar you need to keep. But there was that time 2 decades ago where you were in Hamid form and you were engaging with mortal society, and not to be crass, her name, it's a little lost to time, but you did have that evening together. And she unfortunately was on a plane ride the next morning. That concert or that party or wherever it is that you met her, it was very much a fleeting opportunity, but you remember the scent and running around the woods outside the Pacific Northwest regions between Seattle and Portland, but mostly Portland because that's where your territory lays. That's where your cairns need protecting. You remember fondly that evening and the scent of that woman. And probably about 2-3 years ago, you caught that scent again out by the college. But when you went looking for it, you didn't find the woman you encountered a decade and a half prior at this point in time. Instead, there was a batch of young people at the college.
Keeping my distance, Ben would sit about the edge of the wood line,
Mm-hmm.
raising his nose to the air and just pulling those scents one by one.
Now, you can seek greater understanding through a roll of the dice, but I do believe that if I was to ask you to make a resolve or wits plus awareness, giving you that extra die you have for smell, since that's a specialty you've taken, I believe that to be a pretty significant pool of dice that would give you a success if you were to take half on a difficulty of 4.
Wits and awareness would get me if I took half at a 3.
You'd have 3. Well,
so I guess we're
this
rolling.
is important enough that you might want to roll. Yeah.
Plus the extra die for smell.
Oh no, that's yeah. So it's 3 for it's 2 for awareness plus smell, and then 3 for resolve. And that is 4.
Exactly what you needed. Now, the difficulty being 4 isn't necessarily the baseline difficulty we look to, but not having discussed whether you're Hamid, whether you're Lupus, just that you're far enough away to be in the tree line, that distance could have additional sense that would mar your ability to fully take in what it is that gave cause for you to stop this day looking upon the college students. But nary a burrow hole or a trash can that clearly needs emptying or some other force of distracting scent is enough for you to deny that that might be not just the scent that you had from her that many years ago, although it's clearly not. This woman is probably around 18, 19, and even when you met her the first time, she was much older than that. But a 4 is exactly what you needed to be able to sense that it's not only that familiar smell from all those years ago, it's a dangerously familiar one as well. Your own mixed in. And we jump forward about 2 years later, and this person would be undoubtedly finishing their undergrad degree. And if I might be so bold, I'll state that as you want to keep tabs this day, you might even be in Hamid form walking about the campus.
Ben, over the last couple years, has started to become emboldened by the smell, taking mostly lupin form, keeping his look as domesticated as possible just to get closer. Shoot away multiple times by security and things like that. Nothing he wants to completely give scent to that he is something else. But as
Now-
time goes by, he gets impatient. Ben shifts to a much more natural, at least in this environment, form. Putting on a ragged shirt, trying to clean it as much as possible, and trails through the campus.
And putting on the requisite clothes to be walking through, but not necessarily looking transient in such a fashion that security persons wouldn't, bully you out of the space, but, would potentially keep an eye on you until you walked out of their cone of vision. You're able to keep relatively close distance while using your natural stealthy abilities as a hunter in the wild to not be easily seen or obstructive to the day of this young woman. And you were able to determine over the last couple of years of observation, and certainly confirmed today as she meets up with some friends outside what looks to be a campus pizzeria, that her name is Christine. And today, you might even be so bold as to sit at a nearby table. It's one of those eating places that you've seen on campus where you don't necessarily need food. You might just sit down and study, but you get close enough today to get a really good scent. And getting into the vicinity, you're able to sit there for long enough, and you hear Christine is studying bioengineering. You don't really necessarily understand what the hell that means, but it sounds impressive. And she's talking with her friends. It seems as though her friends admire her and think of her as being one of the more intelligent persons of the group, because they're discussing borrowing things from her, whether it be her time or her notes. And you kind of get a good feeling of what notes implies. And all the while, you're getting a good sense that the people around her are impressed, but there is sort of a dour feeling in your chest as you're close enough today, possibly for the first time, to be able to scent that apart from having your smell attached to her own, you don't necessarily smell the wolf.
Sitting there listening, just enjoying her words, something that he's tried to get a hold of as much as possible. Ben kind of just floats off in his own mind, trying to remember which night that was, and having some discussions with some of the other glass rockers in the area, who are much more intelligent than he is, at least in that perspective. Requests a favor. Somebody within this bioengineer, that thing. And he tries to, as he's walking out of the pizzeria, he very much tries to fall. Ben's not going to fall easily, even while trying, as his instinct would immediately kick in. And he drops a small pendant on the ground near the pizzeria, or near the table.
As you stumble ever so slightly, one of Christine's friends jumps up, and he kind of walks forward and goes, "Hey, are you all right, buddy?" And you see that.
I'm sorry, it's just floating in my head. I apologize.
Oh yeah, that's cool, man. All right, and you begin to walk away, I assume.
Yep.
And very fittingly, it's as you're walking away, probably another 20 paces, that you hear her voice. And she goes, "Oh, wait, did you drop this? Sir!"
And he turns, and for the first time, he actually gets a good look at her, face to face, eye to eye.
Probably a good 5'9", maybe 5'10". She has reddish brown hair and a ponytail behind her head, and fair skin, but not pale. And she looks healthy, like she would make a good wolf, but you just don't smell that on her.
Oh, no, it's fine. Something I was told by a friend long ago is that these are protective charms. And if I dropped it, maybe it meant that I didn't need it anymore.
And she just says, "Oh, all right then. You sure you're okay?" And she's half turned back towards the table when she asks, but she does stop long enough to keep looking at you for a response.
"Oh, I'm fine." And he kind of dusts off his pant leg. The dust already being there probably, but makes it look like he's fallen a little bit. I hope it helps you. It's helped me for a while.
She looks down and she sort of clutches it and holds it up in front of her and says, "Okay. Well, I sincerely hope you're all right. Take care of yourself." And after she nods, she looks at the necklace again, or the pendant, the charm, and moves to sit back down. But she darts her head over her shoulder. It's definitely a polite concern, watching as you continue to move away. And thanks to a recent friend, Dr. Tamsin, you are able to keep relative tabs, mostly by way of her, but also by way of the talisman, over the next year. And it's about 1 year later that Tamsin and other sources related to her are able to communicate to you that Christine has gone missing. She appears to have entered her first year of graduate studies at the same university and has a routine that you're not necessarily wanting to follow at all hours, but you have heard enough to know that she does certain things at certain times, and individuals who are within this favor network you've established are able to communicate to you that it's been roughly a week since she was seen executing this routine. And the reason for which any Garou in the room outside of your pack, whether it was the temporary pack established outside the lake or the one that you roll with more regularly, including but not limited to Dr. Tamsin, is investigation after her disappearance did indicate that whether it was deliberate action, she was just chosen for her merit, or if she had befallen an accident and the change was what was needed for her to remain alive, she was turned by one of those vampires that appears to be under the leadership of Primogen Gregarian Rosu across the room from you right now.
And you can see Ben's hand just start to clench. And he, without unbuttoning, just snaps the first button from around his neck.
As I'm sure you can imagine, I'm going to ask for a rage check.
Absolutely.
Now, for anybody who's watching and waiting to see what James rolls, certain circumstances push werewolves beyond trying to ascend in ranks of rage, and they instead advance straight to a state of frenzy. But I don't believe we've arrived there just yet.
No, not yet.
Mm-hmm. How'd you do, my friend?
Dice are being nice tonight.
Okay. So everyone in the room, to some degree or another, has heightened senses to the point where you literally hear roughly 15 knuckles crack at the same time. And at that exact same time, one button goes pew, flying off, hitting one of the upper basement level windows that looks out on the street, because obviously this formerly opened establishment for underground tours has a promontory space under the surface of the street. That button, ding, and everybody does turn because we've arrived at the point where Thera and Hemlock are communicating that we have a great need for individuals to assist us in investigating the source of this spiritual anomaly. And then ding, all at the same time. And everybody looks towards Ben. And Gregarian Rosu sort of notices for the first time that you are mean mugging him. And you see Tamina. Tamina being the former sheriff of Portland, put a hand on the shoulder of Josie, her Bruja counterpart, who has walked back into the room and is currently holding a bound and gagged figure that many of you undoubtedly saw she brought in. But Tamina's hand on her shoulder seems to communicate one moment. And as, for all intents and purposes, the Kindred assassin walks 2 paces forward to be in front of Thera Rosemary, she addresses you, hands crossed in front of her in a non-violent gesture. Are we going to have a problem, Mr. Wolf?
At this moment, no. But that's to be seen.
Wait, I was muted. You see her hold up both hands in a somewhat conciliatory gesture, and she goes, that would be wise. And I would encourage you not to see this as a threatening gesture. Everyone here is undoubtedly at a little bit of a heightened emotional state, and especially with what we are going to bring out, I wish to be prepared. And with her hands in front of her like this, at her ends of the word prepared, she takes the pointer finger on one hand, draws it across her palm on the other hand. You can hear dogs barking behind me, I think. But she draws it across her palm, and from the ensuing blood, you see her dip her fingers and pulls out a sword approximately 4 feet in length from haft to tip of the blade. And she very calmly, once again, hands out in front of her, flips it, rests the tip against the tip of her boot, and she steps back and to the left about a half step each, so that she's to the side of Thera Rosemary, as opposed to having been previously behind her and to the side. And then she nods in the direction of Josie, the current sheriff of Clan Bruja under the Camarilla, who moves forward. Josie is sort of interesting mix. You would imagine that she is possibly half Japanese with a little bit of Hispanic in there as well. And she has about 5'3" with heels in total height and a very slender build, but under the slender build and the diminutive height, you can definitely see a fully straightened back and eyes that are probably the shade of wet concrete in a slate gray fashion, communicating a very stony presence to her rather stony visage and demeanor as she bodily picks up what you would assume to be about a 250-pound male, bound and gagged on the floor, thrashing now with the movement of being picked up, and with one hand walks forward to the center of the space, lifts up the body to face height, and drops on the ground this individual before stepping back and drawing a very large revolver. And she, pop, 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 pop into the body on the ground, and it continues thrashing. To all the wolves in the room, you're now smelling a mixture of kindred blood and the worm. For you see, visibly off of the vampire on the ground, you now see what appear to be small little millipedes etching out of the bullet holes. As black, brackish blood spreads out across the floor, it reaches a perimeter of approximately 3 inches away from the body that it was spreading away from, and then it firmly stops. And on the ground, you see little tendrils, not unlike the millipedes coming from the bullet holes, wavering in the air, pulling in the direction back towards the Kindred, who himself is still shaking on the ground violently, attempting to become unbound. And she goes, Hemlock had a couple of opinions about the spiritual aspect within this vampire here, and she has loaded, she's speed loads the revolver fully back in to having 6 cylinders filled, and she goes, pop, 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 with another 6 holes, so that there are 12 in total. And you see that this pool of blood, which now appears to be freakishly crawling back towards the vampire, spreads out another 2-ish inches on the ground around the fallen form. And it's at this time that you see edges of the blood that were pooling away break apart and begin sliding across the floor at snail speed in the directions of individuals standing against the outer ring, including some of yourselves. And at this time, you see Hemlock, one of Hemlock's attendants, a fellow member of the Ghost Council, move forward, and she says, everyone, if you could please step back another foot or two. And she pulls a blowtorch from the inner confines of her robes. The good news is this is not weaponized fire in such a fashion that when the torch begins in earnest, any of you are given cause to feel true threat for your life. But I will say some of the kindred in the room, if not yourselves, definitely lurch ever so slightly, because fire is bane just as much as sunlight. And she makes a circuit around the fallen form, slowly burning off the blood, which is screaming into the air, inhabited by both kindred vitae and the Wyrm itself. And Hemlock speaks up as her attendant is taking care of this and states, we cannot stress the importance enough that as many willing members of both of our nations as we can find spread out and find the source of this spiritual interference among our people. If we do not, and we cannot bring proof of that interference to the greater world of Kindred and Garou, we may well tear ourselves apart while the true threat, and she indicates the still squirming body on the ground, tears us apart from within and gains additional power.
I put my hand on Ben's back and I say, and I whisper to him and I go, oh, I beg of you, please let me get in on this.
This is your study, not mine.
Oh, you're the best. I raise my hand and I say, if I may, to the leaders.
The floor is yours.
Oh, well, I was merely going to, with permission of my alpha, of course, offer our pack services. This is an area of specialty of study of mine. And I'm sort of like leaning forward, like looking at the goo, sort of getting further down, like at floor level. And I'm like, interesting. Have we tried any rites of abjuration on this?
And one of the other persons standing next to Hemlock kind of moves forward and he utters, we have. And although we've been able to prevent it from spreading from within the form, it unfortunately does not diminish the power of the Wyrm within.
Well, in that case, we'd be happy to take a look at it for you.
That is good to hear. And most of the Garou in attendance, they sort of like nod the individuals who are apparent leaders appreciatively, and the other individuals who, much like yourselves, were probably called here to join in the action, sort of nod in agreement like, yup, we're up for it. And then, of course, Thera, hands crossed her chest, turns and says, it should go without saying that coming under the employ of this endeavor is not without great peril, but each of you, and she kind of takes a look at all of you assembled and some of the others that I described, are disheveled at the very least, obvious signs of wounds at the worst, appear to be in great danger or having experienced great danger already. Those of you who are picked are those who we feel are good counterparts to our very intelligent and just as strong investigatory sources in the Garou community. But you have interesting connections, and she focuses especially on you, Cassandra, and to the seeming reporter in the other corner, Flynn. Obvious connections from our side of the lines with the spiritual community. Others of you, and looks to you, Basidius, and to the sort of rocker girl, have greater influence within the Kindred Society to ideally prevent additional fighting from destroying us outright, while convincing others to open up their doors and allow for proper investigation. And then, and she turns in the direction of you and another that seems similarly ostentatious Wonka and says, frankly, we need a wide skill set. And I cannot communicate enough just how grateful the Camarilla
You
would
see
be
Wonka.
for you to agree to this endeavor. Boons from myself, at the very least, would be promised. I can promise you that. And you were about to say something, Jacob?
You see Wonka kind of pull like a little vial of like a red liquid out as he walks over to one of the things and sprinkles it on there. And it's like chili powder flakes. I mean, it's good enough as fire. I mean, maybe it'll do something.
It's
Pops it back on.
It's a simmering little pile of like sticky black on the ground, and you do see that the chili flakes get like lightly enveloped, which results in the one attendant going and walking back over with the blowtorch for a second round.
Cassandra
Spicy.
is spicy. Cassandra was paying attention to the entire thing up until the point she hears this button fly across the room, and her full attention turns to what she perceives as a power to play with in the room. And she turns and has been eyeing Ben all the while at the same time, perceiving Basilius in the whatever direction he's in. But she has been eyeing Ben and been thinking of ways to maybe manipulate or play with him in a way to see what can happen. She just wants to see what would happen.
Do you have any ideas at present, or is that something you're mulling on for future interactions?
She, as the goo is being burned, she's been slowly making her way over toward Ben and Tamsin, and she deliberately kind of steps into his space, into his personal space, and she goes, "Ooh, a moonchild. I haven't seen one of you in a very long time. Hello."
Hello.
You seem unhappy.
Tense. But aren't we all?
I mean, tension. I mean, anyway, tell me, is something make you react? I feel like there's something or someone in the room who might have touched a nerve.
What are you after?
Oh, I'm not after anything. Nothing at all. I feel like you carry like just this primal fury. Just fascinating, actually. I find these things so binding. These threads just kind of wrap around us all like a little distraction, maybe a little pawn. Anyway, hi, I'm Cassandra.
Ben.
Such a simple name for not simple. Moon child. Anyway, I think you need to calm down a little bit. Don't you think?
Oh, I think you'll find this is him at his most serene.
Ooh, hello, you.
Hi.
Aren't you an intelligent one?
I am.
That is that there's something that you want from this one. I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to come over and say hello since we'll be working together, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, I love that. Wait, bookshop. Cassandra's bookshop.
Yes.
I love your shop. I've been in there so many times. I love it.
Have you now? I don't remember you. I think I remember you.
Oh, I kind of blend in when I want to. But you have so many cool books. And I'm a collector and reader, and I love the occult, and I find a lot of good tones there. So appreciate it.
And Cassandra, as she says, I love the occult, really quickly moves out of Ben's space and right into Tamsin's space, and kind of cat-like rubs herself along her in a really weird way that's distracting.
You're a Malkavian, aren't you?
You're so smart. Okay, yes.
I think you should join us. This seems fun. Ben, don't you agree? This seems fun.
You'll notice that as you moved towards Tamsin, Ben kind of shifted, and he's got his eye on the back of your head.
Okay. And she's still going to be looking at Tamsin directly in her face, but she's going to be addressing Ben and goes, tell me, Beastie, what do you truly seek? I feel like there's something you've been looking for. Maybe a challenge? No, not a challenge. There's something you can't quite comprehend, and the scent of it tonight has maybe pushed you to the edge a bit. Anyway, I'm glad you love my bookstore, lovely. I would love to have you back. Please, when you come back, make sure you ask for me, okay?
Oh, I definitely will. I love it. And then I noticed Basilius stood over the other side as well. I'm like, and I start waving at him.
I think Basilius actually his intention or his focus has been on the goo on the floor. And when all the conversation has been happening about what they want people to do, of like investigate, try to find people, try to find the source, one of the questions that he asks out loud is, do you have any information about whether or not this sort of influence could reside in the blood of a human?
Ben's gaze immediately shifts to Basilius.
And Hemlock herself, the head at present of the Ghost Council tribe here in the room, steps forward and says, yes, you might not be aware, but there are spirits all around us, not only in this room, but in this world. And a certain style of spirit from the Triot is one that gives cause for many such creatures, aka spirit-inhabited humans, to wreak havoc throughout mostly urban spaces, but also terrible things in wild ones as well. It is much more common for this to happen with mortals than it is with those of our mutual kinds.
My concern, if I may, and perhaps forgive me as I am not much of an occultist myself, but I fear that if this is something that could also affect humans, it can also affect the sources of feeding for our kind, which means that someone who may be untouched by these spirits could obtain some of this influence through feeding, in which case I believe things such as ghouls and other protected mortals amongst our circles should be prioritized to be protected as much as we can.
And Thera speaks up at that. She goes, Prince, I assure you that if that's a concern you hold for yourself and your retainer, we can absolutely make any form of operations present to either move you back out of city if your time visiting us has come to an end, or leave you in protective custody alongside one of the other more influential and vulnerable of our leadership. And she sort of indicates that, yes, there are 2 primogens in attendance, but short of that, the remainder of that leadership has opted not to be present. Those who have been called here are those we are hoping to send out to take action, but it is absolutely a voluntary endeavor.
With all due respect, and Basilius steps forward, his cane emphasizing his step, I am not asking questions for you to escort me outside of a problem. I am asking questions that could prevent this situation to become just another lockdown in a more severe way. If this is something that can spread and be in the blood of a mortal, what stops a mortal from traveling to my city or another city for any kind? This is a problem that is disconcerting. I am not leaving until it's resolved.
I'm imagining that most of the Garou in the room would begin nodding their heads in agreement as Hemlock steps forward and states, I know not where your domain is on this planet, but I unfortunately have to tell you that these creatures, at least in their mortal visage, are more rampant than you, myself, or animal kind. Every city on the planet has Fomori, and it is the duty of Garou such as ourselves to stamp it out. What we are not as used to is vampires and werewolves who have undertaken the same condition.
I think Cassandra at this point, as she's hearing Basila's talking and feeling him step, she feels him step forward. Um, she's gonna whip around and make eye contact in an effort to convey somehow for him to maybe choose his words carefully. Just as a like not as like command, more like a suggestion, like there's something more happening.
Well, I believe that with McCreary and my five, that we have a good way of looking at all that, uh, and playing off of something for the audience that Ben has put as my lore. Um, you guys don't see Wonka as the noise is coming from above everybody, as he's kind of laying on the ceiling and talking about like really getting into his own like mind palace of thinking out loud, and you just hear like word vomit as
Yeah.
he's like, well, it could be this, and obviously Augustus and McCreary, and what we've been through, and
Oh,
just
he's
there.
that guy. He really can
You
fly.
really can do it.
I think there's a Basilius acknowledges Cassandra, but you can tell when he looks back at you, he senses, because he knows those looks that happen, especially in like social encounters, and so he gets what you're trying to communicate. But what you get back is this evenness of, I am not out of turn. Like what is being presented right now before us with the goo that it's literally trying to crawl back into a body, it's not something that makes my statement out of turn. So there is no, you can see that he's very comfortable, even if others may not be comfortable with the fact that he's being so vocal, even though this is not his territory. Because to him, his big picture.
Our job as Garou is to clean this up no matter what. Kindred don't normally interfere. However, you made a statement worth noting. If your kind change, not only do we have to an issue of more of you, no offense, but 40 kindred taking out 7 of my kind, unexpected and very unwanted.
I think Basilius looks at Ben probably for the first time, taking him in, and very evenly he just says to him, balance is a delicate thing. We will help. And I think Basilius looks at McCreary. If allowed, he would gesture to McCreary, who already has surgical gloves, because you never know when you're going to have to clear a body. And they would, and Basilius spots Tamsin. And it just kind of, she's waving, but instead what Basilius does is looks at McCreary and goes, you're with her. And McCreary is probably going to try to collect some samples from this thing. And McCreary will be involved in as long with Wonka will be one of their points of contact on the vampire side, and Tamsin is probably going to be their point of contact on the Garou side for Basilius.
I think Cassandra, when when Ben says what he says, murmurs to herself, but it's loud enough for people around her to hear. Such primal pronouncements. I wonder what he's seeking. Something in here. It chafes a little bit at his collar a little bit. Something from the past. It's brought to the present. It's so much fun. But the goo, something feels, and Cassandra feels heaviness from like the occult part of her premonitions, her future telling, her oracleness. She feels like there's something otherworldly and it's pulling at her, and she's trying to distract herself by playing with everyone else because it's not something she's comfortable recognizing right now.
As I guess we're wrapping up, the last thing of all of this that I guess you guys would all hear is this loud burp coming from Waka as he descends back to the floor.
And Thera goes, "Dear God."
He's mad.
There's
And-
a part of Ben's just enjoyment out of all of this. Like, this man is actually more ridiculous than Ben is. So it's like, this just helps.
Ooh, taking a lot of pressure off of me, dog. Yeah.
Oh my
you
gosh.
realize, and then in my Sam version of you saying that, realizes that he said dog, and then Ben gets mad. Anyway, Thera and Hemlock do seek final confirmation. Will you lend your aid to this endeavor? And the individuals on the outskirts, not represented by those on camera, do nod their heads and begin murmurs with the attendants who are in attendance with reference to arrangements to receive favors should things go correctly. But Hemlock and Thera remain stalwartly focused on the six of you, just seeking if they have 6 additional individuals who will lend their aid.
I would say yes. Basilius will provide whatever services from his merchant contacts and resources to the cause.
I think Cassandra, at this moment, has allowed some of whatever this is to enter her mindset. So it's something that she knows that it needs to be addressed. So she's gonna be like, I suppose whatever I can do, I can help with. I'm always available for anything, really.
And Wonka, not knowing who he should go with, just kind of walks the door and goes, "Pure imagination."
And you just Josie and Tamina are smirking and laughing ever so slightly as Thera just once again is like staring at you like, I asked for this. I did ask for this. I assume we received some form of assent from the Garou as well. Does anybody have a remark, or are we all just in agreement that hell yeah, we're in?
Oh, we'd be happy to help. Right, Ben?
I'll give my assistance where it's needed.
Yeah. See, happy to help.
And I've not taken my eyes off Grigori.
And Neri, it kind of feels like you gotta say something now because everybody else said.
I elbow Neri. I'm like, Neri, come on.
Kind of brushes a little bit, and in essence says, "The eyes of the forest keep watch."
And on that note, we have assent from all in attendance to lend their aid to this mysterious conflict wrought by spirits upon not only the mortal world, but both the Garou Nation and Kindred Society. We'll bring an end to our first episode on that note, but before we depart for the evening, I would be remiss if I didn't give an opportunity for everybody to tell us who they were once again and where you might find them in their other endeavors. Victor? Oh, Oh, wait, hold on. Wait.
Also, if you like products and stuff that we use tonight from Renegade Games, they also have cards that you can pick up and things like that for a discipline deck, as well as a right deck that is coming. And if you look at some of our stuff, we also have Werewolf the Masquerade or the Apocalypse
I was
books.
like, wait a second,
What?
that's a thing?
They could be the same. I don't know.
Vampire the Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well
Yeah.
as Hunter the Reckoning and other things that you can obviously, as Sam's told you before, buy Renegade Games and get your stuff there. So join
That
us as we
sounds
adventure.
cool.
That does sound cool. And if you're watching the stream, you have undoubtedly seen a couple of notices from Streambot. Thanks, Streambot, reminding you that you can use a link from Tabletop Misfits to assist you in that purchasing endeavor. Thank you for the reminder, Jacob.
And
Victor, where can we find you? Yeah.
yes, so I played Basilius Borgia. He is a venture prince of Los Angeles. I'm Victor. Also, you can find me as Victor the Story Weaver. There's several projects that I'm involved in, but most of them are not airing right now. So if at some point later on down the road, I actually have dates to announce in case people want to see this mug elsewhere, I will let you know. But very happy to have been here. I had a blast, and I look forward for more.
And Sam, if you'll see yourself out with an outro of introductions.
Hi, I am Classic Sam NYGM, Classic Sam NYGM on all social media platforms. You can find me primarily here on Twitch, over on my channel where I do amazing interviews with amazing content creators within the TTRPG and nerd space. And I do actual plays like this one tonight where I play Cassandra, who may or may not be the real Cassandra from Troy. But we're going to find out all the things and see how well she messes with people around her.
And our not official, not sanctioned head of marketing.
It's you, bud.
Obviously, I played Wonka, your loving burpee character tonight of Willy Wonka. You can find me at Bard's Tavern at, I guess, all Bard's Tavern areas. There's probably other guys that do the same thing, but that's on Instagram. Check me out where you can find Bard's Tavern stuff, as well as on this channel. So, see you guys.
I gotta know, but you didn't say it. What type of vampire was Wonka?
Wonka is a caitiff, which means that Wonka
Nice.
is everything virtually.
Whatever he wants, can do anything, belongs nowhere.
Oh yeah. I had an assumption.
Always.
But I didn't want to guess.
He is good about peddling chocolate.
He's the Chocolatier clan. Well, you have to buy a very specific book for that.
Yes.
And since you came off mic, Ben, you're the top of our Lupine order.
I am, and it's a little weird to be going not last because I'm always last. But I am, yeah, I know. You can shout out the rest of it. So I am James, normally the GM for Tabletop Misfits. However, I got to play Ben, the child of Gaia Garou, pack leader of Portland. And I'm looking forward to finding out how Ben deals with everything that's happening right now, not only internally, but around Portland. So, and I have a feeling that if Basilius is not here next week, that Ben and Basilius are going to have some conversations.
And on that cryptic note, Megan.
Primarily, I go by Banu on most platforms. I mainly mess around behind the scenes, just having fun with friends, playing D&D and all that stuff. Hopefully we'll be joining another actual play soon, getting started up. I have been Neri, based on a Tibetan wolf breed. She is an Arun silent stalker with a penchant for ferocity. And I'm excited to see just where all of this heads as the rage builds.
Oh, yeah. And there will be opportunities for it to build and build and build and build. So we likewise cannot wait. Speaking of waiting, last but not least, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I played Dr. Tamsin Newman, the Philodox Glasswalker. I'm everywhere at Blonde94 on the internet. I do things sometimes, and Tamsin, looking forward to see how Tamsin deals with late nights and having to get up for work in the morning. So that'll be interesting.
Is that a bit of a self-insert, or
Who could say? Who could say?
all right? And thank you all for being here, everybody. I was Sam, your storyteller. You can find me in most places online at Dungeon Samster. Please tune in to Tabletop Misfits on Wednesdays. We have our talk show known as Tavern Talks. On Thursdays, our friend Chuck, who runs other shows on this channel, has Beaker Builds. And although they're taking a break in October on the alternating Sunday cycle, you can catch the continuing adventures of Power Rangers, Guardians of the Grid at the 4 p.m. EST time slot. EST?
PST.
PST. 4 p.m. PST.
PST, yeah, 4 p.m. PST, 8 p.m. or
7
7 p.m. EST.
Bam. Bam. We're well rehearsed. And on that
Yeah,
note, fare thee well. We'll see you next time.
And one last note, we also, every other Monday, do Dress the Quest over here on Tabletop Misfits, and that is at 8 o'clock EST. So, which
5 PST.
Sam's involved with, but didn't say anything. So
That's funny. I forgot about the other show I'm in.
The heck, Sam?
That's Sam, not this Sam.
Oh,
Yep.
and one last thing.
Yes.
If you
good.
haven't checked out any of the previous shows from Tabletop Misfits, you should probably go check them out because they're all great.
All right, we'll talk about that head of marketing thing in earnest later. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good one.